We're gonna watch this this Whick panel or Whick stream. It's not really a panel. It's only 3 people from the other night, where he spoke to Brianna Wo. He had Brianna Wo on, speak to Pondering Politics, Josiah, Ruminate, however you want to call him, who's like some sort of DGG / Pac-Man adjacent liberal YouTuber who does like daily Pac-Man style videos where he talks about democratic politics basically, and that's it. He's IRI coded, but less of a thin-skinned loser who spurgs out of the slightest criticism. This guy's a lot more chill. He's pretty chill. He's pretty boring, but he's pretty chill from everything I've seen. And he came on to Wix to give Brianna Wo some criticism about her recent appearance on the Triggernometry podcast. Triggernometry is like this right-wing podcast where they bring people on and they're like, it's like intellectual dark web slop type content where they're like, oh, you know, the modern left stops us from thinking these things, and the modern left, you know, fucking for 3 hours going on and on, saying, oh, you know, Trump actually has some good policies. You know, it's total. It's IDW slop. It's for Joe Rogan-esque content for normie center right type people who just want the absolute lowest tier slop that makes them think they're actually engaging with like politics content or like politics in a meaningful way, when really all they're doing is sort of jerking themselves off over surface level entertainment where people talk about generalities and broad issues without ever actually arguing about any solutions or policies. So it's total slop. And Brianna went on there to do her normal fucking routine of, oh, you know, I used to think that the right wingers online were the bad guys, but now I realize the left wingers online are the bad guys instead. And it talks about how important it is to talk about policy. But then the moment she gets into any policy conversations on there, she's immediately shown to be completely out of her depth, because all she wants to talk about is how we should talk about policy and not about any policy itself. We're not going to go through the whole trigonometry thing. We might check out a bit of it later. Maybe if some of it becomes relevant in this, they're talking about specific points, we'll go back and forth and try and find what Ruminate's referring to. But my understanding is that on this stream, we're going to watch basically Ruminate, Pondering Politics, give Brianna Wo like very limited pushback. Sort of like very, like, hey, I think you could have done a little bit better here. Hey, listen, I don't think that was a good idea. Being very polite. And Brianna is just spurging the fuck out, as always, as you would expect. So let's take a look. Even Lycan has been tweeting, saying how dog shit this stream was, saying how useless Whick is. I think the exact quote was something like, my name's Lycan GTV, and I think Whick is a worthless goblin-human hybrid who needs to be taken out from YouTube. Exclusively talking about YouTube, not talking about anything else there. I think that was an exact quote from his tweet. So, thank you for the membership queue.
Theological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, have we got a show for you today? The first thing I will say, before I say anything else, is we are back on Twitch. You may have heard. You may have heard that I got suspended, that I got banned. It's true. I did. But then I worked a little bit of my white boy magic. I used my cis hetero white male powers. Okay?
White boy magic.
And I gave.
Sorry, Whick kind of cooked with that one. Hate to say it. Whick kind of cooked with that one. White boy magic. I'm taking that, but he should not be saying it.
You may have heard. You may have heard that I got suspended, that I got banned. It's true. I did. But then I worked a little bit of my white boy magic. I used my cis hetero white male powers, okay? And I gave them a good stern talking to over there, and they rescinded everything.
Stop, he's such an asshole.
Whick victory, 100% return on investment here. They overturned the suspension. They removed all strikes from my channel. They apologized. So welcome, Twitch viewers. I know I missed you, but we're back, and here we are. But today's topic, let's get to it. Recently, Brianna Wo guest tonight went on the Triggernometry podcast. For those who are not aware, it's a more center right-leaning podcast that talks to people from
Lucas Synthead super chatted $2. Whick rocking the Chud Logic haircut.
Thank you for the $2, Lucas.
across the political spectrum and has sometimes interesting, sometimes kind of boring conversations. I watched it. I enjoyed it. And I reached out to my friend here, Brianna Wo, to come talk to us about it, and that's what we'll do. But again, before we get into it, just full disclosure, I do get a check from Progressive.
Make sure to have volume up, and if you can, apply a compressor to get all of her uncomfortable breaths. What, you mean get rid of them? Because I don't want to get rid of them. I'm relishing. I'm getting dinner for the family, but I'm a big queefer. His hatred warms my soul. Okay, see you later, Connor.
Victory. Okay. Josiah
had nothing to do with tonight.
Yeah,
nothing. I didn't ask for this topic. You invited me.
Yes, that's true. And Brianna isn't paid by Progressive Victory as far as I know. So here we are. Okay. Let's get into it. So I guess first of all, let me ask you, Brianna, how did this happen? Like, who reached out to who? Tell us about like kind of the lead up to the experience of being on the Triggernometry podcast. Go ahead.
Sure. So before we get started, I just want everyone out there to know I'm recovering from surgery right now. I'm a little bit weak. So if I'm a little bit dyspeptic today, it's not because Whick or Josiah are boring me. It's because I'm not quite myself yet. So I would love a little bit of grace today. So the way this happened is, obviously after October 6th, I've been a lot more pro-Israel than a lot of people on the progressive side. And it has opened up the doors to a lot of people that I've been talking to. So Constantine over at Triggernometry is one of the friends that I've made in the aftermath. I don't agree with him on it.
No, they're two separate. Okay, no, they're two separate things.
Everything.
So I don't think Cyrus IRI is two separate streams.
Taking him to task on trans stuff he said, disagreeing with him on many.
I'm aware that this guy is not the star of the hit late '90s pop punk music video "Pretty Fly for a White Guy." I'm aware that that is a different streamer who starred in that music video. Don't worry.
Political views, but it's respectful, right? So he invited me on. I thought it was really, really important to go there and kind of counter some of the things he said about trans rights with some of his other guests there.
Is that real? What do you mean? Is that real? Yeah, IRI is that okay? We got this through first, guys. IRI is the guy from the "Pretty Fly for a White Guy" music video. Okay. By The Offspring, all right? That music video. This is I'm Really Important, okay, guys? This is I'm Really Important.
So I felt a responsibility to go on and kind of represent a different point of view. So I said yes.
Okay. So our other guest tonight is Josiah from Pondering Politics, who I reached out to as well, because I wanted to get his opinion on some of the things that were talked about. So Josiah, did you watch the episode? What are some of your thoughts, I guess, after seeing the show?
Yeah, I did watch the episode. So a couple of things. I, too, am affiliated with Progressive Victory. I was actually recruited into Progressive Victory by the guest of honor herself, Brianna Wo.
True story.
It is. And that was actually the genesis of, the interaction between us, which has always been pretty civil and pretty friendly. And a lot of this is kind of rooted in a shared, stated mutual interest that we want to elect Democrats and defeat Republicans.
Yeah.
And so we've had a pretty friendly civil rapport ever since then. And I did watch...
this is like an actual incestual relationship. I do get like Brianna and Whick, like they are like McPoyles or something, right? You can just see them being like... You can imagine them being like the freak incest family in like a horror movie, but like Resident Evil 7 or whatever it was type thing, where you're like trapped in a house and there's just like Whick or Wo around every corner with a fucking knife, like an axe, like a fire axe. And the Wick's just like swinging at you and spitting through his fucking mouth. You can picture it. You can picture it.
This conversation, I was actually, the second I found out about it, I was excited because I wanted to see basically how Constantine and the Triggernometry, the pair of them, I don't even know the other guy's name. I'm blanking on it. But do you know what it is, Brianna?
I'm tired. I'm sorry. I'm
no, it's okay.
Well, yes.
It's okay. If he's watching right now, he will be wildly
I'm
offended.
so sorry.
I believe that they're enlightened centrists, right? So I believe that they're really...
I don't know it. They seem like they lean more right in my
massacre.
view.
Well, that's what I call the enlightened centrist, basically somebody who is conservative but doesn't want to say that they are.
Yeah.
And so to have somebody who was a Democratic operative on their podcast who wasn't Tulsi Gabbard, I thought that would be an interesting conversation to have. And so I did watch it, and I was a bit disappointed with some of the decisions that were made by Brianna strategically. That's basically, I walked away from it thinking that she was very generous to the Triggernometry folks, and they did not reciprocate her generosity. So she gave them everything in perhaps what was, good faith. It was an attempt to establish a dialogue with a more conservative podcast, more conservative audience. And they didn't reciprocate. They gave her nothing. And that's something that I think that is worth discussing as far as...
So I think this might be a good place to dig in, because I think the mission objective that you're outlining here, that, I need to go on there and be Team Democrat. Yeah, look, obviously I want Democrats to win. I don't like Republicans. I'm not going to vote for Republicans. But my mission objective was a little bit different. In researching for this, Josiah, I was looking at your channel, and I don't think there's a lot of trans content there. It's not that you're silent on it, and I assume you're an ally. I've never talked to you about that. But it's not really a major focus for you. So I want to be really straight and say that the main thing I wanted to talk to that audience was shoring up the arguments for several things, which is really hard. But my mission and be Team Democrat. Yeah, look, I'm pleased to dig in, because
as far as
I think this might be a good place to dig in, because I think the mission objective that you're outlining here, that I need to go on there and be Team Democrat. Yeah, look, obviously I want Democrats to win. I don't like Republicans. I'm not going to vote for Republicans. But my mission objective was a little bit different. In researching for this, Josiah, I was looking at your channel, and I don't think there's a lot of trans content there. It's not that you're silent on it, and I assume you're an ally. I've never talked to you.
Okay. You're talking about not having enough trans
folks,
content on his channel? What do we think? How much trans content does he have? I mean, it feels like he probably talks about it an appropriate amount for how many trans people there are and how important the policies are, to be honest. A couple videos every year. Probably about the right amount to talk about trans content, but sure.
About that, but it's not really a major focus for you. So I want to be really straight and say that the main thing I wanted to talk to that audience was shoring up the arguments for several things, which is in some cases children having access to HRT if the indications are extremely clear, making the case that adults needed access to HRT, and kind of making a more moderate pitch on trans rights, which I thought his audience would really appreciate. That was my main mission objective. The second mission objective was understanding that the Triggernometry audience is generally more right-wing. I wanted to go there and be just a normie Democrat, right?
But you want to be a normie. Brianna, you're not a normie. Brianna, you're a freak.
And particularly after October 7th, where so much of our party has steered into what I consider to be outright anti-Semitism, I wanted to go there and give just a face saying, hey,
Yeah, Brianna and Whick, unironically, they think they're normies. They think, oh yeah, we're just like average people. There's just like whenever you leave the house, don't you always just see people like Brianna and Whick? Whenever you're out, don't you just see people like Brianna and Whick on the street? All the time. You're walking through, I don't know, California or fucking LA, wherever you live, or New York or whatever. Maybe someplace in New York you do see Wicks, I don't know. But don't you just see these people? Well, they're usually homeless though, right? You usually see Wicks and they're homeless, I would imagine. Yeah, exactly, Bug. In Wick's case, living on the streets. That's the thing, right? This isn't how you wouldn't assume this person has a house to go back to. And oftentimes he would be quite aggressive, violent towards you as you walk past, or maybe try and accost you for money.
Their Democrats are really upset about this too, and some of this more communist direction that we've moved into that doesn't represent me and that doesn't represent my party. So does that make sense to you? It's not, my mission wasn't to go there and be like vote Democrat. It was a little more nuanced than that. Does that make sense?
It would fit into my
It does. Okay. It does make sense, but I would argue that even with that mission,
JP, what do you mean by that?
I question some of the rhetorical tactics that you use, because you could have, I think, adopted a more moderate approach on trans rights, and also went out of your way, as you did, to distance yourself from what you described in the conversation as the progressive fringe with respect to Israel-Palestine. I think that that's fair for you to do, but it was other aspects of the conversation where I felt that you did not stand your ground in a way that you should and gave too much. Like with respect to, we can get into it, in more detail. I know Nitwick was going to say something, but like defending Biden's record, Afghanistan, and also the extent to which the progressive fringe represents the Democratic Party. Because you may recall, the one time that we ever had any sort of public disagreement prior to this, because I usually keep my eyes focused on MAGA Republicans and
So this is the thing, right? Is that Brianna always talks about how, we need to talk about policy. We need to focus on the policy. We need to focus on what really matters, the real world stuff, what normies care about. But then she goes on and on and on about how the far left progressives have taken over the Democratic Party. That's not true. That's not true. Progressives have very little real world sway. Going on about Hamas supporters and all this stuff all the time. What Hamas supporters are there in government? What world are you living in? None of this shit matters. It's like, it's people on Twitter. That actually is, it's people on Twitter and people on college campuses. Yeah, right when lefties had no power, she jumped. Suddenly, right when the super far lefty progressives have no power, all of a sudden she's like, "Oh wait, I'm not like them. I'm actually on you guys' side. I'm actually with you guys. You guys were right." Okay.
Unrepentant right-wingers or enlightened centrists, so I tend not to punch left.
Sure.
But the one time that you and I had a public disagreement, it was about this. Like, to what extent we can say that the entire progressive movement...
Yeah, exactly. Her world is Twitter. She talks so much about policy and about normies, but her entire perception of politics is filtered through Twitter. That is her only engagement with it. I never hear her speak with any depth about any real policy issue. I just hear her fucking lament the damage that the left's done and how trans people need access to healthcare. And that's it. No, never any depth, never any real engagement with the subjects. And when she does, she sounds fucking retarded. There was some basic shit that she got wrong the other day when she was on Triggernometry. I can't remember what it was. Fuck.
Is characterized by its fringe. To what extent that progressive fringe embodies the Democratic Party or President Biden. And these were the things that I took particular issue with. I think you were too charitable to a party that, or to a group, to people that had no interest in reciprocating your charity.
Yeah, and I'm just going to interject here because this is kind of like, I think, a very important thing to discuss. How much charity should we give the other side in these things, in these discussions? Where should we fight? Where should we stand our ground and say, no, what you just said is wrong, and possibly derail into the conversation? And where should we be like, you know what, we disagree on this, but let's tackle it another day. I'm here to talk about X, Y, or Z. And I think that is a very interesting kind of strategic discussion. Just to get my thoughts out here about the discussion is...
Well, my thoughts are that Brianna did an amazing job. Brianna's really great. I think she did an amazing job. I think you should stop talking now, Pondering Politics.
I thought that if your objective was to go out, and this is to you, Brianna, if your objective was to go in there and to build bridges, I think that you succeeded. However, I do agree with Josiah in that there were a few places where I would have liked that for you to push back more. The Ukrainian one and the Afghanistan one are the two that come to mind immediately, but I'm sure there are more. But I just wanted to ask you, Brianna, when it comes...
So what did she say? Let's actually look it up. This podcast sucks, man. This shit is actually so bad. What happened in the Ukraine segment?
I, as you know, a big supporter of us supporting Ukraine.
That's
at least in the beginning.
As am I.
Right. What we're doing now is not supporting Ukraine.
How do you feel? What do you mean?
What we're doing now is giving them just enough support so they can continue fighting.
Correct.
But they're not going to win.
That's right.
They're not going to get the outcome they want.
I agree.
And America isn't going to get the outcome it wants.
I agree.
What the situation needed and still needs is somebody who is prepared to simultaneously carry a big stick and do a deal at the same time. Ultimately,
well, that feels kind of retarded to say. Is America not kind of already getting the outcome at once? Like, is the point not just to... Because people assumed that Ukraine would basically get, like, swept. Right? And the whole point of supporting them was essentially just to be a total fucking drain on Russia's economy and have them throw a bunch of their working population to die. So purely by the fact that Ukraine is still going and still blowing their shit up and still killing them, America is kind of getting its outcome right now. No? I mean, I'm like retarded, but that's my understanding.
Supporting Ukraine.
That's
at least
right.
in the beginning.
As am I.
Right. What we're doing now is not supporting Ukraine.
How do you feel? What do you mean?
What we're doing now is giving them just enough support so they can continue fighting.
Correct.
But they're not going to win.
That's right.
They're not going to get the outcome they want.
I agree.
And America isn't going to get the outcome it wants.
I agree.
What the situation needed and still needs is somebody who is prepared to simultaneously carry a big stick and do a deal at the same time. Ultimately, this is how this is going to end. And what you need is someone who's going to say, either we do a deal on the basis of what's happening on the ground right now, which means, sadly, Russia is going to get pieces of Ukraine that it didn't have before, in exchange for Ukraine having long-term security. And if you, Vladimir Putin, are not going to sign this, then I am going to give the Ukrainians everything. That's what the president should be doing. And I personally think Donald Trump...
What? And she just claps along...
...deal on the basis of what's happening on the ground right now, which means... Sadly, Russia is going to get pieces of Ukraine that it didn't have before in exchange for Ukraine having long-term security. And if you, Vladimir Putin, are not going to sign this, then I am going to give the Ukrainians everything. That's what the president should be doing. And I personally think Donald Trump is far more likely to say that than Joe Biden. However, let's just...
That just feels like an incredibly retarded, simplistic engagement. Like, oh, just make this deal. Just say, just force them into a deal now. Like, and she just claps along with it.
Agree to disagree.
Can I just agree
Sure.
with that? I think that's really well said.
Yeah.
You know, we've gotten into this dynamic where we want to make Ukraine just strong enough that they can never lose, but not strong enough that they can never win. Now, I'm not a general. I can't appraise if, like, giving them air support is going to lead to World War III or not. But I think that more needs to be done.
Dude,
like, just giving them, what is it, the 132 millimeter shells to, like, hit Russian, barricades. Like, doing this forever is not going to let them win the war. We've just decided this lukewarm support. So I think your assessment of this is dead on.
I guess my point is on that issue is I don't think it's the Democrats are going all out for Ukraine and the Republicans are stopping it. It's more like Democrats are doing a terrible job and the Republicans are torn. There's a part of the Republican Party that wants Ukraine to win and would help much.
So this is what I mean, right? This is almost like a real policy discussion here. This guy puts forward an incredibly retarded, simplistic viewpoint. Just force them into Jesus Christ. Just force them into a deal now. Just say you're going to destroy him if they don't accept a more favorable deal now. Just force them into doing it. Incredibly retarded, simplistic engagement. And Brianna's got nothing and just claps along. This is the opportunity to have the real policy conversation that Brianna wants to have. She wants real policy conversation. Always saying, we got to directionally, I want to focus on the policy directionally. And she's got nothing. She's got nothing to say. And just agrees with whatever's being said to her at the time.
Much more than they're currently doing.
Sure.
And there's the other, what I call the more woke right, so to speak, who are, they're anti-Ukraine because they're anti-Western elites. That's kind of their worldview.
Do you think they're compromised in some way by Russia?
No, I think they're compromised by the derangement. They've been staring into the abyss.
Sure.
They've been looking into the progressive abyss for so long. They're now thinking like progressives in their head in many ways.
I hear what you
into the by the.
Do you think they're compromised?
To Ukraine because they're woke right, so to speak, who are they're anti-Ukraine because they're anti-Western elites. That's kind of their worldview.
Do you think they're compromised in some way by Russia?
No, I think they're compromised by the derangement. They've been staring into the abyss.
Sure.
They've been looking into the progressive abyss for so long. They're now thinking like progressive.
I'm sorry, but okay, well, it depends who you're talking about. Obviously, specific individuals are going to be compromised, specific individuals won't be. But broadly, Russia is funding like a fuck ton of the propaganda for like these like right-wing, anti-liberal, anti-Western types, right? Like Jackson Hinkle, I'm pretty sure takes money from, he's kind of like left-wing, but he takes money from the Russians. I think people are saying that Has might. And there's a bunch of people like around in that same area, like all the Grey Zone. Do I mean Grey Zone or do I mean a different thing? That Breaking Points show that Destiny went on, I'm pretty sure that's Russian funded, isn't it? So, you can say that broadly, the people who support this stuff aren't like compromised. But certainly there's a fuck ton of propaganda and a fuck ton of money being spent on these talking heads. Any evidence of what? Russia like outright owns, like let's people. Jackson Hinkle was like met with. Like Breaking Points is literally Russian funded. That's not even controversial to say. Jackson Hinkle's been on RT, frequently cited by Russian and Iranian state media. It may not be Breaking Point. What's the one where Destiny debated Alex Jones? I'm pretty sure that was. Maybe I'm thinking of different. This one, Zero Hedge.
Would you have been okay?
Yeah, this is literally owned by some Russian guy. Or is he Bulgarian? In March 2020, American journalist Seth Atena wrote an opinion piece in the New Republic titled Is Zero Hedge a Russian Trojan Horse? And provided details on the links between Krasimir Ivanjitsky, the site publisher's Bulgarian father in Soviet-era activities and propaganda revealed during litigation initiated by the father against the tenor in Bulgarian courts. Tenor commented that Zero Hedge has become a forum for the hateful, conspiracy-driven voices of angry white men of the alt-right, racists, anti-Semites, extreme right-wingers, and conspiracy nuts for an undeserved audience, and as it turns out, a profitable one. In February 2022, intelligence officials from the United States claimed that Zero Hedge has amplified Russian propaganda by publishing articles written by Russian state media. So yeah, that's the one I meant, not Breaking Points. Zero Hedge. Not Breaking Points. Which one's Breaking Points? I thought that was the one where Destiny debated Alex Jones. Which one's Breaking Points? Is that the new... Oh, wait, or is that the one... Well, no, Breaking Points is the one that he was on recently, right? I saw clips of. Yeah, no, that's just The Hill, isn't it? That's with that Crystal. Yeah. Yeah, that's not the one I meant. It's a totally wrong one. They left The Hill. Yeah, I know it's not literally The Hill. I mean, it's the same hosts. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be more specific, okay? But whoever said, someone was saying Jackson Hinkle's a lefty. I mean, like, yeah, kind of. But both Hinkle and Haz did the MAGA communism thing, didn't they? Which is just, it's just borderline, like, National Socialism. No, I don't know how else to take it, to be honest, for everything I've heard about it. But anyway, I kind of want to see where's the trans stuff, the trans debate. Let's watch through this on 2x.
You mentioned was the trans issue.
Sure.
And well, obviously we all think this about our own position, but my view is Francis and I have taken a pretty sensible position on it. To have a broad range of perspectives on. We had a trans woman on the show very early, the first person with whom we raised this issue, who absolutely hates our guts now and whatever.
Who is it? Can
India Willoughby.
Oh, okay.
And we had...
She's a friend. I like her a lot.
And we had other people...
Do you actually know her, Brianna? Do you actually know her, Brianna? Would she call you a friend, Brianna? That's always my immediate response when I hear Brianna say she knows someone. Oh, she's a friend. I'm always like, okay, does she even know you exist? Is she a friend?
People who had different perspectives, everyone from Buck Angel, who I know you know, to people who are very critical of certain things, and I thought that their criticisms in some ways was excessive, but in other ways really important.
Sure.
And the place I think we've both landed in is the place kind of to some extent we started in, which is adults should be able to do what they want.
Great.
Children, however, are not capable of making informed decisions about the future because they're children.
Sure.
And should therefore be protected from medicalization.
Sure.
And there's quite a lot of evidence that a lot of children who go down the transgender path are actually not transgender at all. They're either gay or they're autistic or both or bullied or whatever. And I don't think cutting bits off those children is the right position.
To be clear, you can't get surgery until you're 18, as I understand it.
Cut the you can get
off.
Puberty blockers.
Yeah, on puberty blockers.
Right, that's pretty mutilated.
But that's not cutting
that. Correct, fine, fine. Let's take that. Medicalizing confused children is something I'm against.
So, look, this is going to get me canceled by trans Twitter, but something that's changed in the last 10 years is we've really redefined who is trans, right?
Yeah.
It used to be people that medically transitioned. You went through the Benjamins, and then there were the WPATH standards, and some reasonable stuff. Go read it. Go to a therapist for 3 months, get on hormones, have real life experience out there, get surgery like a year later, right? Not a crazy gauntlet to go down. We've expanded all of these things in really extreme ways now. There are people in the trans movement that, hand to God, really believe in self-ID. Like, you should just be able to say, I'm this gender, and that has legal consequences for what spaces you can enter. Yeah, this is crazy, right? I don't understand this non-binary stuff. I have friends that are non-binary. I think they're going through something real. They're in the W path, but they're going through something different than people who medically transition. So to come back to your point about children, if you are adding all of that onto who is considered trans, of course there are going to be some of those children that are non-binary or just don't like the gender role or confused or gay, that transition is not going to serve them. So, I personally have the opinion that if you look at the science here, it is not particularly conclusive one way or another.
I lost track of what the fuck she's saying here.
This is crazy, right? I don't understand this non-binary stuff. I have friends that are non-binary. I think they're going through something real. They're in the W path, but they're going through something different than people who medically transition. So to come back to your point about children, if you are adding all of that onto who is considered trans, of course there are going to be some of those children that are non-binary or just don't like the gender role or confused or gay, that transition is not going to serve them. So, I personally have the opinion that if you look at the science here, it is not particularly conclusive one way or another. We need to double down on the studies we're doing. We need to really make a better pathway to serve those children. And I do want more of them filtered out.
So would you agree with me then that until...
Okay. Double down on the studies we're doing. Now, what actually is the problem with the research into trans shit? Because my rough understanding was that it's not necessarily that there's the research is like not being done but could be. It's the research that needs to be done is very long-term, in-depth psychological research, and that's very hard to do without having a lot of people going through these procedures. So the only way to basically get good data on it is to have more of the people more people transitioning, basically. So and then the argument becomes, well, so okay, do we follow the limited data and allow sort of like the more progressive to guide us and allow the more progressive policy to take hold? Or do you approach it with a more conservative angle where you very slowly and apprehensively allow people to go through these surgeries, not surgeries, like procedures like taking the medication and shit? No, just follow the ones who do. But I thought that a lot of that is happening. It's just there's not many to follow. Especially like, I would imagine basically most people who are, sorry, not most people. There's probably a lot of people who start when they're kids who are getting regular check-ins and shit, I imagine. Transgender health is also threatened by some sizable data gaps. It's widely and erroneously reported that black transgender people have a life expectancy of 35. But in reality, scientists have no idea what it is because no one has ever checked. For important laboratory tests such as the EGFR and the complete blood count CBC, which is routinely used to evaluate the overall health of patients and detect disorders such as anemia, doctors have, until recently, been forced to guess which limits they should use. There's mounting evidence that, as with many other traits, such as race, gender often defies the binary categories and clear thresholds that much of... Okay, blah, 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 blah. The field of anesthesia, where the ability to dose a patient accurately can mean the difference between life and death, it can be tricky to get this right for transgender people. Very, very little research into how their bodies process drugs, especially after hormone therapy. Meanwhile, Green has found that when it comes to blood tests, the male version of calculations should be used for most transgender men, and the female calculation should be used for most transgender women. The process being treated with hormones actually changes the person's biology, so it more closely matches their gender identity, but it depends on the test that is being evaluated. Addressing this missing data... Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So yeah, it's not even just that the healthcare issues aren't even just we don't know whether the transgender therapy works. It's also no one knows what the fuck to do with you afterwards either. Okay, cool.
Till we have the rock solid evidence, we shouldn't be transitioning kids.
I think I wouldn't agree with you there because I personally know so many people that are such good friends of mine that this saved their life. But what I think would help is progressives are not having an honest conversation with parents. And I am not sure gender clinics are either. They are saying things like, your child is going to suicide if you don't do this really life-altering thing. I don't think that's a good message. I think we need to be talking to parents with more respect about all of this.
One of the things that I actually have a deep level of empathy for a lot of trans people. And trans people have spoken to both of us about it and me individually, and all the rest of it is...
Yeah, that's the argument she's making, isn't it? Like, that's the whole... That is the whole argument. She is arguing the trans kids are going to kill themselves if you don't let them transition.
And I do want more of them filtered out.
So would you agree
to someone in the study? I personally, that transition is not going to serve them. So, yeah, I personally have the opinion that if you look at the science here, it is not particularly conclusive one way or another. We need to double down on the studies we're doing. We need to really make a better pathway to serve those children. And I do want more of them filtered out.
So would you agree with me then that until we have the rock solid evidence, we shouldn't be transitioning kids?
I think I wouldn't agree with you there because I personally know so many people that are such good friends of mine that this saved their life. But what I think would help is progressives are not having an honest...
How would you know that? How would you know that? You don't know that. You don't know that they would have killed themselves. How would you know that therapy wouldn't have just worked?
This conversation with parents. And I am not sure gender clinics are either. They are saying things like, your child is going to suicide if you don't do this really life-altering thing. I don't think that's a good message. I think we need to be talking to parents with more respect about all of this.
One of the things that I've actually have a...
She just said that in the... She just said, okay.
A deep level of empathy for a lot of trans people. And trans people have spoken to both of us about it and me individually, and all the rest of it is... You know, it's tough. It's tough dealing with gender dysphoria. It's really hard. It's really hard. You go through the processes. You take the meds. You go through what else, and then most people just want to get on with their lives.
That's right.
They just want to live their lives. They want to do their jobs. They want to have their friends, their families, and that's it. And they've been politicized now.
That's right.
And you know, one person said to me, like, I just feel like I'm being asked to represent all the trans people. I am just a person.
That's right.
And I just want you to leave me alone.
That's right. It was this way 10 years ago. It was this way 20 years ago. It's really been, in my view, a real disaster for trans rights to redefine it from a nonpartisan medical issue.
Yuki Ichigo super chatted $1.99. Stop using the 41 BTW. My friends were saved.
Thank you for the 199, Sleepy.
To this leftist fringe identity issue where you're trying to destroy the idea of gender itself. Now, I want to be really clear. If someone's non-binary, I will do my best. I will call them by the pronouns that they want because I'm not a jackass. But that doesn't mean I agree with this idea of destroying gender in the public comments. That's not something I support. So, you know, I think the truth is we need to be able to have a discussion. And I think a lot of trans people that actually transition have been ironically censored from their own civil rights movement.
And the discussion is the important part. And this is where the progressive taboos, and they really are progressive taboos, they have to be broken apart.
I agree.
We have to be able to talk about the data, the evidence, without, you know, you're denying trans people's existence and all of this other nonsense
I agree.
That got made up.
Did you read Emily Blaslon's, I don't know how you say it. It was a really great piece in the New York Times called The Battle for Gender Clinics, because it was such a deeply reported, amazing piece that was overwhelmingly pro-trans. and was talking about the history of children transitioning and what the reality was in these gender clinics and the pros of it and the cons of it. And what did trans Twitter do? From open discussion from a reporter that was very, very sympathetic to that cause. They canceled her. They went after her in very personal ways. She had to step away from Twitter. It was absolute hell for her. If trans people cannot even let the New York Times write an article that is pro-trans healthcare and act like adults, I don't know how they're going to win over normal people.
Brianna, do they want to win over normal people?
I think some do. I don't think a lot of the new ones do.
No.
No.
And to me, that's the real problem.
I
They're
agree.
more interested in being right than winning people over.
I agree.
And
There's a lot of that going around, to be fair.
Yeah. And when you're in that position, I mean, that's a pretty terrible position to be in for everybody.
I agree. It's so discouraging. I mean,
What is this pensive moment? Like, this is so pathetic. This is the gayest shit I've ever seen. People actually watch this? This is fucking crazy, man. Do they actually want to win people over? Do they actually want to win people over? Oh, some of them do. Maybe not all of them. That's a really terrible position to be in. That's a really terrible position to be in for everyone. Okay, what are we saying here? There's people on Twitter who care more about being right than making friends. Okay? Yet, truly, society's falling apart. Truly. Everything's coming apart. The civil war is happening. People are killing each other in the streets because there's mentally ill college students on Twitter that care more about being right than being nice to anyone. Okay, I'm making myself sound trans now. It's a bad place to be in for everyone. It's a bad place to be in. Who cares? Who cares, bro? It's some people on the internet who are flaming someone for writing an article they didn't like. Okay. Where have you been for the last 20 years?
Interested in being right and winning people over.
I agree.
And
There's a lot of that going around, to be fair.
Yeah. And when you're in that position, I mean, that's a pretty terrible position to be in for everybody.
That's a pretty terrible position to be in for everybody. Fucking loser. What about a couple of retards? Literally nothing to say here. What a worthless podcast.
It's so discouraging. I mean, for me, I'm 46. I remember when trans was Jerry Springer in this country. I don't know if you know who that was. And to think about that as
Jerry.
To think about that era as just a healthier discussion. It's terrifying to
It's
think
amazing how
about.
we live in a world where Jerry Springer was a healthier discussion.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Just bring about 10 crazies onto the stage and make them fight. That was healthy.
Yeah, and then it got broken up.
This is what I was thinking about. Like in the Jerry Springer era, like a trans woman being married to a man was salacious. And today it's boring because half of trans Twitter is in their polycule with 5 non-binary people. Like it's insane.
So you mentioned the election that's obviously...
Wait, so Brianna, you're against open relationships? What's the deal there? You're against polyamory? What's the deal there? You think it's degenerate, Brianna? Okay.
looming in the future.
About the election now. Okay, that's the trans bit done. All right, let's go. I think we've got enough context now.
Comes to your objective, like as you said, you wanted to go in there and be a normie Democrat and also represent trans issues you felt were important. How do you feel you succeeded at that? Like, how do you feel about it coming out of that? I just want to talk about that for a minute, and then we can get back into the back and forth.
Well, this is going to be about success as well, so let's see what the audience response was like. I threw rocks at people, but now other people throw rocks at me. Throwing rocks wasn't a problem until a rock hit me. The comment section calling out Brianna's BS gives me hope. Brianna spent years being a torch-carrying mob leader and then the mob turned on her, and now it's time to cry. You can tell the views haven't changed, but the pity party is in full swing. Progressives need to be more in touch with how normal people really feel. Also, Biden's a great president. Okay, you retard. Brianna, we have to move back to science and reality. People watching this, we never left. Okay. The gamers were never the a-holes. It was the progressives then. It's the progressives now who are the a-holes. Rihanna Wo, for those who don't know, was a ground zero player in this woke game a decade ago. She went so far as to fake hate crimes against herself. That she's repented isn't to be trusted. All these years and Brianna hasn't learned a damn thing. She's more concerned about losing power than if her ideas were ethical. Yeah, this guy's a Deagle Nation member for sure.
Well, I think it was a good interview in the sense that I think it clearly got a lot of buzz, right? So I think it was successful from that point of view. And, you know, I got probably 300 or 400 emails, you know, PMs, you know, private messages from people saying that I really helped change their mind.
Did anyone else hear Biden had a rib removed so he could suck himself off? Trump didn't have to remove his rib to do that. Cool.
Some things. So that's, you know, non-trivial to me. You know, right after it, I want to tell you, my own husband, who was there with me, told me he thought that I should have defended Biden a little bit more strongly. So I take that criticism. I think that's fair. In my defense, you know, typically when you go on these shows, you get a real breakdown of what you're going to be talking about from the producers. So what I'd planned to talk about with the producers was a lot more talking about, you know, trans issues, talking about the October 7th, the direction that, you know, things had gone with progressives after October 7th, which is, you know, what I've talked to Constantine about quite a bit. So I'm not saying that you're wrong, that I shouldn't have defended Biden more. But if I'd known that that was going to be a subject, I would have prepared for that. And, you know, before I do this major media hit, I always go through and I say, what are the points I want to hit? I write them out, I research them, I word them, I practice them. And I think that's probably why the trans stuff was so much.
You really, you practice this stuff? Really? I don't believe you. You sound like a blithering fucking retard when you go on these shows. I don't believe that she does this much practice. I don't believe she's doing a bunch of preparation for this.
I'm not saying that you're wrong, that I shouldn't have defended Biden more. But if I'd known that that was going to be a subject, I would have prepared for that. And, you know, before I do this major media hit, I always go through and I say, what are the points I want to hit? I write them out, I research them, I word them, I practice them. And I think that's probably why the trans stuff was so much better than the Biden stuff. Because frankly, I just had not really extensively prepared for that, if that makes sense.
No, it makes an entire sense. I understand. It's just, I think, further evidence that there's certain venues that when I go in, right, I know, or I'm pretty sure that certain topics are going to come up in a wide stretch. Now, I get that if you don't want, if I'm confronted with someone who has a topic that I am not very well researched on, or that I am not comfortable discussing, I could be like, well, you know, I've heard differently, but I'm not prepared to talk about that. I don't know at this present time. I think that's.
But I did defend Biden off the cuff.
No, you did. Yeah. You did. Yeah. But I think that, like, you gave too, as Josiah said, I think you gave too much. But I don't want to.
So get specific. Get specific. I want to hear, like, specific.
Well, I'll let Josiah articulate it.
She's debate broing now.
That, so he probably has those transcripts ready, and he can.
Pulling the destiny. Could you give me an example of that, please? One specific. Just name one. Just name one.
But we're gonna do that. But I wanna hit also on the point after this of this bridge building. I'm curious to hear what some of the messages about what you change people's minds on. I'm just curious to hear that. But let's go to Josiah with the transcripts. Go ahead.
Yeah. So a couple of things. When it comes to defending Biden and the Democrats, right? And again, just assuming that was at least on the back of your mind as a Democratic operative, somebody who wants to get Democrats elected. A couple of things that stood out to me, and it's about at the 38-minute 40-second mark on the transcript, or excuse me, on the video, which is, Constantine turns to the topic of the border. Okay, now you did a really good thing here, which is that you mentioned that Democrats attempted to pass, or rather there was attempted the passage of.
Oh, wait, I saw some of the border segment too. Okay, maybe we'll go back and look at that. Oh, dude, are we just gonna jump back and forwards a bunch? Because this was like really dumb.
You go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say the one thing moving that's kind of, there's, like
recent stories about this drugs coming through, I'm sure it's terrible. I urge you to go read stories about this. It is a nightmare. You cannot be a feminist and want the status quo on all of this. Drugs coming through, I'm sure you saw the viral video a while back, the woman like with her children under the barbed wire and all that. It is completely normal for a country to need a secure border. And I don't understand why Democrats don't take this exponentially more seriously. We can have a conversation about, visas to let people in. We can have a very high number of people that we let in, but we've got to secure the border. And I think it is eminently fair to say the Democrats have failed at this.
Yeah, so saying like the Democrats have failed at securing the border, I don't think this is even true, is it? This isn't my understanding. I don't think the Democrats like having a bunch of awful fucking cartel shit going on at the fucking border. I don't think it actually helps them in any way. People say, oh, they want open borders because they want brown people to come in to make them win. Because brown people will vote Democrat. But I don't think that's substantiated really at all by like the way they act. That having a bunch of crime and a bunch of awful shit going on at the border is going to affect their chance of winning an election. Oh, so you counted the votes? Nice one. Biden's illegal immigration rate skyrocketed. Illegal border crossing soared. Biden took office and immediately rolled back many Trump-era restrictions. So wait, single adults going down, family units is going up. That would be good, right? Unaccompanied minors going down. You don't need an ID to vote, Kuihman, not try to be... Okay, you are retarded. That's fine. Because you genuinely think you were making a point when you said... I thought I genuinely believed you were trolling when you said, oh, so you counted the votes. I responded because I thought you were trolling. I thought that was a joke. I thought you were mocking something a retarded right-winger would say. I know I'm slow, so technically it's true, but I think I'll stop engaging now. Thanks for letting me know. Deportations, returns, and expulsions. Okay, so Biden has not only... So illegal crossings have soared, but also deportations, returns, and expulsions have soared too. What's going on here? So, how does that work to where deportation? What's happening here? Well, that's high, but this is lower. Biden's Department of Homeland Security issued new guidelines to ICE officers in 2021, directing them to prioritize national security threats, serious or violent criminals, and recent border crossers. Worksite enforcement or raids were halted. Deportations of migrants arrested by ICE. So basically, they focused on, instead of just trying to deport loads of people, they focused on deporting people that were, avoiding people that were working, and deporting people that are engaged in criminal activity. I mean, that seems reasonable. But I would have to know what effect that's had on, like, the crime of area, like crime in areas where they were migrating to. Number of migrants allowed to temporarily enter the United States through immigration parole. Executive power that allows government to temporarily waive in migrants who don't qualify for a visa. I mean, does this, I assume, like, I'm guessing by parole. Is there some kind of, like, check-in that they do here? Is this like a way of them keeping a better eye on like who's coming in? I mean, I assume it has to be because they're like signing paperwork and shit to be on this, right? So it allows them to keep track of actually like who's in the fucking country better. Annual cap on refugee admissions versus total number of refugee admissions. Naturalized citizens. Okay. Okay, well, I guess what else I need to see is okay, let's try this one. Just gonna have what I want. I want to just know like how like crime is, because what's being spoken about here is still like feminism. So she's talking about like crimes against women and stuff like that, like crimes being committed around the border and as a result of border crossings. So what I would want to know is what has been the effect of Biden's policy, even if there's more border crossings. Has that had a positive? Has the other policies had a positive or negative effect on the security? Let's see. Do I trust Slate? I like just having super safe websites like BBC and WAPO, shit like that. Oh, what is this about? Oh wait, oh yeah, that was Ryle sending me the. Wait, okay. 7 immigration issues separating Trump and Biden. Okay. Recent polls indicate an almost dead heat between Trump and Biden presidential race, generally speaking. Trump is more likely to promote restrictive measures, border security, and a more nationalist approach. Biden is more likely to promote legislative reform, be more compassionate, and focus our attention on international cooperation. However, 7 key immigration issues separate the candidates. Let's take a look at all of them. So, yeah, I mean, Ryle saying in chat as well that immigration is super downstream, that you can't really know the effects for like years. And so my understanding has always been that basically the only way to fix immigration issues and security at the border is to have a stronger Mexico that isn't like a total shithole full of cartels and shit like that. Bro, what, Bandit, what are you speaking out about? Okay, border security. President Trump has had the lead on this issue and has been helped by southern governors who have transported newly arrived migrants up to northern sanctuary cities, northern states, to bring home the message that America is being overwhelmed by the wave of transients. Responding to the Republican campaign on this point, President Biden has also increasingly focused his attention on the southern border, is now threatening to take executive action to squelch the flow of people coming northbound, increased border protection funding. So, okay, well, this isn't even true. Yeah, this isn't true because Biden is... Has he done this executive action? You can't say that Democrats are doing nothing if Biden's taking like executive actions to stop shit. But there was one 3 weeks ago. Why did you call me a retard for saying illegal immigrants vote Democrat and large? No one said that. Democrats are the party that caters to them. Yes, illegal immigrants very often initially vote Democrat. Later down the line, they'll vote Republican. But yeah, they'll probably vote Democrat initially. If they ever become actualized, if they ever find a path to being a citizen, or their kids will vote Republican. But whatever. Yes, they will broadly vote Democrat. What I was disagreeing with is the idea that Democrats are intentionally lax on immigration and lax on the border so that they become more powerful and more likely to win elections. Your rebuttal was, oh, so you've counted the votes? So you counted the votes? That's a completely irrelevant point to what I said, first of all. Because I didn't even say that it wouldn't have a positive effect. I was talking about what Democrat policy and why they did it. But also, it doesn't address the point. It doesn't address the point that you are trying to get at, which is that many of the people who immigrate to the US illegally or legally do have incredibly Catholic, incredibly anti-communist backgrounds. And argue that if they suddenly stop caring, if it suddenly stops being such a imminent issue to them, such a constant issue to them, the idea of being an illegal immigrant, if that stops being, they will slip back into that Republican voting pattern, that right-wing voting pattern, because that's what their core values are. They are against socialist policies. They are against communism. They are traditionalist. But yeah, obviously, when illegal when the threat of ICE is breathing down their neck, yeah, I imagine they are voting Democrat. Yes, I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Illegal immigrants don't vote. So that's a whole different conversation. There are probably some amount of illegal immigrants that do vote because you don't need an ID. Now, you can argue that that's not a substantial amount that has any real effect. But that's what right-wingers are arguing based on, isn't it? That there's some amount of illegals that manage to vote. New illegals aren't in tune enough to know Democrats are the people that let them in. They hang at the fence and work behind the grill. Voter ID is retarded. Americans are dumb about it. What do you mean? I mean, I think I don't really care about voter ID stuff. I don't. But then we get like free government IDs here, I'm pretty sure, right? So it's like easy. I don't think you get that in America, do you? You don't get, there's not like an easy. Okay, well, it's totally, you guys are all disagreeing with each other. So, an average conversation with a group of Americans, total disagreement on the reality of your country. Anyway, let's finish this article because I'm interested now. Let's finish the article. Tone and rhetoric. Okay, don't care. Restrictive immigration policies versus pathway to citizenship. Trump will likely maintain his focus on restrictive immigration policies, such as border wall construction, increased massive deportation efforts aimed at the 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, and limiting legal immigration. Biden will continue to advocate for comprehensive immigration reform, including a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. So far, however, such as when immigration reform was tied together with aid to Ukraine in a bipartisan Senate bill forwarded to the House, Biden's efforts to get congressional approval for the package was stymied by Trump and his minions in the House, Speaker Mike Johnson. DACA and Dreamers. Okay, Trump's administration sought to end DACA and has taken a more adversarial approach towards Dreamers. So these are people that are like born or enter the US when they're like sub 3 or like super young, right? And protects you from deportation and shit. Is that right? Basically, kids that are illegal immigrants that have like no choice because they were just totally under. Parents are illegal, but the child is born in the US. Okay. Refugee and asylum policies. DACA kids aren't born in the US. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Yeah. Child is born automatic. Okay. Yeah, it's totally separate. Okay. Refugee and asylum policies. Trump's administration implemented policies that restricted refugee admissions and made it more difficult for asylum seekers to obtain protection in the United States. We expected to continue this restrictive approach to refugees. Biden prioritized humanitarian considerations and will seek to reinstate and expand genuine refugee admissions and asylum protections. Listen, America can probably take a few refugees. I gotta be real. I got no sympathy. America can probably take a few. I feel like you got space. Look off, what for? Engagement with international partners. Trump's administration often pursued a more unilateral and isolationist approach to immigration policy, and we can be sure Trump will continue this restrictive approach. Biden's approach to immigration seeks greater engagement with international partners to address the root causes of migration and promote cooperation on issues such as refugee resettlement and border security. I mean, it would seem like you probably, if you want to have a secure border, you probably need to work with the country on the side of the other side of the border. You probably, as much as it sounds good, you probably can't just build a wall and shoot anyone coming across. You probably actually do need a strong country on the other side that you're cooperating with to address security threats and track criminals and shit, right? Enforcement priorities. Trump favors building a wall, aggressive enforcement measures, and more massive deportations of undocumented migrants. Biden's approach emphasizes targeted enforcement efforts focused on individuals threatening public safety rather than widespread raids and deportations. The week ahead, well, okay, cool. So, I mean, yeah, immigration's gone up. Illegal immigration has gone up significantly. But it seems like Biden's also making kind of like a stronger effort to like enforce security measures. But I just can't see any. Is there any actual data on that? Anyway.
You say you don't know, but to me it seems utterly perplexing because it doesn't. I just look at it and I go, unless you've drunk the progressive Kool-Aid, so we just say, for want of a better word, so much that you think open borders are racist.
Yeah, no human is illegal.
Which was a piece in the Times, by the way. Like, oh, I couldn't believe that.
But apart from that, how can you justify it? How can you justify it when you look at the number of fentanyl deaths in this country?
Again, do you want the real answer or do you want the political
answer? Let's go.
All
right.
Here's the real answer. Democrats don't have balls to stand up to the nut jobs. That's the real answer, because you get called a racist and you're afraid about losing the...
Okay, but wait, okay, but is the fentanyl stuff, is that like really a supply issue, or is that like a fucking no one has any access to addiction resources issue? Is it really just that there's fentanyl in the country? There's got to be people buying the fentanyl who want fentanyl, right?
Let's go. All right.
Here's the real answer. Democrats don't have balls to stand up to the nut jobs. That's the real answer, because you get called a racist and you're afraid about losing the Latino vote. And
they flooded the market. Oh, right, because it's mixed with pills and coke.
Can I just push back on that? As somebody who is half Latin American, whose mother is from Venezuela, I can guarantee you, Venezuelans in this country who came here legally...
Majority of fentanyl deaths are laced in coke. Okay, right, yeah. So it's not an issue of it being people wanting fentanyl, it's an issue. Okay.
Sure. Who pay their taxes, who work hard, just like Cubans, just like Puerto Ricans. They're even more pissed off about this because they're like, hang on a second, I jumped through...
What's that? Okay. Fentanyl seizures rise at US-Mexico border. Here's why from 2023. CBS. Spike in fentanyl-related overdose deaths in the US has fueled national nationwide conversation. Republicans have sought to link the spike in fentanyl-related overdose deaths with the record numbers of migrants who have entered U.S. custody along the Mexican border. Biden administration's handling of historic influx of illegal border crossings has allowed fentanyl to be smuggled into the U.S. at higher rates and fueled the opioid crisis. Unequivocally false that fentanyl is being brought to the United States by non-citizens encountered between the ports of entry, making claims of credible fear and seeking asylum. Okay. Years ago, at the start of the opioid epidemic, direct flows of fentanyl came primarily from China. Nowadays, the larger challenge is curbing Chinese-sourced fentanyl precursors from entering a US-bound pipeline. So it's China through cartels. The US government's ban on most legal cross-border traffic amid the public health emergency prompted a switch to easier to conceal synthetic opioid than fentanyl. Okay, I can't find this. Increase in drug seizures. Border Biden. Yeah, I can't find that F-bombs. Okay.
All the hoops. I did all the paperwork. I paid my money. I paid my taxes. And I could have just walked in.
Sure. I'm not saying it's a correct assessment. It's a deeply incorrect assessment, but that's the reason for the fear there.
Right,
you know?
I see. So, but wouldn't that be, if we're talking about Joe Biden being a good president?
Sure.
Wouldn't you agree, if you disagree with what's happening on the border, that at least on that issue, he's been terrible?
We just tried to pass a bill that would have made Democrats extremely unhappy. The progressives were really upset about this bill because it gave the president things to do, like close the border.
That guy is David Baddiel from Ordered from Temu.
Thank you for the £2.
Order in an emergency and had some of the strictest restrictions on this. And the Republicans are the ones that defeated that bill because they wanted it to be an election issue. Now, I don't mean to get all geeky and policy oriented, but a huge part of this is also the lack of immigration judges. We have a huge are you aware that in Boston, we're a port city. We sent our immigration judges down to the border in an emergency capacity because they can't even try cases down there. I don't care if you're on the right or the left or open borders there. We should all agree that if you come across the border, you should have a legal process to figure out where you need to go. We don't have the system for that. So
no, I don't agree with that.
Do you not?
No, I don't. I'm a first-generation immigrant to the UK, and my view is nobody should be coming into the country illegally.
Sure.
Right? So we shouldn't be sending Boston immigration judges to the south because they shouldn't be necessary because the border should be closed.
Oh my God, that's such a retarded take. Just, well, no one should be doing it, so no one should be coming through. Well, okay, but there are going to be people coming through, retard. It's literally, yeah, okay, let's just build a complete wall. Just complete wall, just absolutely zero people. And have people shooting, like, fucking a whole army manning the top of the wall. They just shoots anyone that comes past with just massive machine guns. And any boat that comes past, they've got constant planes flying overhead to fucking bomb them too. Like, what a retarded take. There should just be no one there. Well, there's gonna be, so you have to have a fucking system of judges to adjudicate this shit.
That's what I'm saying.
I think
that's what most people expect, really.
Look, I want this situation.
You expect there to be zero people coming through. You expect that. You think most people expect zero illegal immigration. Really?
And my view is nobody should be coming into the country illegally.
Sure.
Right? So we shouldn't be sending Boston immigration judges to the south because they shouldn't be necessary because the border should be closed. That's what I'm saying. I think that's what most people expect, really.
Look.
Wow, so brave. What a nuanced take. What an intelligent and nuanced take that really addresses the reality. Okay, thank you. I'm glad she went on this podcast. All right, let's watch some more of this. Also, I need to grab something to eat.
A bipartisan border bill. You said that it would actually make Democrats very unhappy, which I understand the rhetorical tool there. You're saying, like, listen, this is actually something that was done that would have made my side unhappy, and we attempted to do it.
That's right.
And Republicans killed it. Constantine didn't respond at all. And I think that would have been a missed opportunity. That was a missed opportunity. You could have said, Constantine, I want to pause on here for a minute. So you and your co-host bring up the border. You're really upset with the situation at the southern border. You know, it seems that you're pretty critical of Democrats. You're pretty critical of President Biden, but government is more than the three branches. There's a legislature.
I would be critical of the situation over multiple administrations. I mean, right, this didn't happen
100%.
under Biden. Yeah.
Right. We haven't had comprehensive border reform in 30 years.
Yeah.
That would have been a great moment for you to push a guy who says he's nonpartisan, who say he's not Republican or Democrat, to actually give a concession to you and say, do you agree, Constantine, that it was wrong, that it was a controversy, a crisis for Republicans to say that there is a crisis at the southern border, you know, use it as a cudgel against the president and the Democrats, work in good faith for months to come up with a bipartisan border bill, and then the second that Trump says he wants to use it as a wedge issue, they cynically pull it away. Does that not make the Republicans morally culpable for the ongoing
Brianna's dog's just killing each other in the background. Oh, man.
crisis that you're worried
Let's
about?
go.
And see what would happen. Because I don't know if he was just unaware of that particular legislative history, but he didn't respond at all. And then you kept going, and then you kind of threw him a bone back and said Democrats have their heads in the sand about this. But I would argue, with respect, at this point, Republicans own the issue at the southern border. If you and I agree that there's a crisis and we work to solve the crisis, but then I pull away to gain a cynical electoral edge, it's my fault now because I have sabotaged this thing in good faith. And I think that you should have made Constantine pay a price, so to speak, for. I think this would have been a good opportunity.
Just to you, Josiah, before Brianna responds.
Sure.
How hard do you press on that? Out of curiosity, like if it's clear that they don't want to engage, how much do you insist that they take this point? Right. I'm just curious.
So there, I think it's a judgment call. So if Brianna had circled back and said, Constantine, you know, again, in the interest of good faith, are you aware of this? Can we talk about this? If you are aware of it, will you concede? Don't you agree that it's a problem that Republicans sabotage this cynically to gain an electoral edge? And then see how he responds. If he ultimately responds that I don't know anything about that, Brianna, then you could have said, oh, it's a perfect opportunity to educate you. Here's what happened. Or if you weren't, you know, brushed up on the facts because you weren't prepared to discuss it, you know, you could have said, like, this is something worth examining because it is dishonest. And I don't think you're trying to be dishonest, Constantine, but it is dishonest to suggest that President Biden alone carries blame for the situation at the southern border. The other party does too. So that to me is where I think some of this is a judgment call. And also even the entire enterprise. Like I know she caught a lot of flack for having this conversation on Triggernometry. I don't share that criticism.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Can we talk about how hard Wu's had it? Can we talk about how everyone's been so upset about Brianna Wo?
I want to respond.
Oh my
God.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish, then Brianna respond. Then I want to talk about the.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Brianna would like to respond to that.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. So first I want to make a meta point. And, you know, I know everyone in Twitch Paul hates it when you bring up gender, but it is just simply true that women pay a different price in these spaces for being aggressive, particularly if you're being aggressive against the host. You know, it is a tool that I have to use way more selectively than someone like Destiny has to, right? He can go argue flat out with Constantine, and I actually watched clips of him doing this ahead of time. It doesn't really... the reason I push him on it is because he won't really answer if you drill down on him. I watched 4 or 5 Destiny clips of him doing that, so I was not under the impression it was going to go well. Secondly, I think y'all just don't have the experience where if you get really aggressive with a host, where you are a bitch, you are difficult, you are a bad guest, you're anything but what is helpful in that moment. Yeah, I'm going to go do David Pakman's show in about a few weeks to talk about, kind of bridging this fringe and the party. The one time I've ever lost my temper in an interview was with David Pakman 10 years ago. And it really did not go well for me. It was a really, really strong lesson to keep your cool no matter what. So I think, respectfully, I hear you. I think you don't understand. I think you don't understand the calculus that women in this space have to use when they're choosing whether to go aggro on a host or not. So secondly, I think what I would say is I don't share your assessment that just because the Democrats decided to work on this one bill in the 11th hour, that there's not like a lot of failed opportunities over the last 20 years. You know as well as I do, there's a contingency in our party that wants open borders. They think ICE is automatically the enemy. When people come through the border and they claim asylum, kids have to go somewhere. And they say that's kids in cages. They don't want any infrastructure set up to do that. And they make Democrats pay a price for just providing housing for that situation. So I think you can look up and down the policy here. And my honest view is it's not all the Democrats' fault or the Republicans' fault. This is plenty of failure to go both ways. One example, here in Massachusetts, we have an international port. We've actually had to send a lot of our judges down to the southern border because they're so understaffed down there, because there's been a failure by presidents of both parties and the Congress, when it's been in control of both parties, to apportion more money to fund immigration courts, just to make sure the law is applied fairly. So, I hear what you're saying.
Okay,
but
guys, I'm stating 1 second, okay?
It's not my honest view that everything the Democrats have done on the border is good and everything the Republicans have done is evil. I think it's failure on both sides.
It's not. Well, that's not my view either, and I'm not even asking it for it to be your view. I'm just saying that if you agree that both sides did something wrong, then instead of, in my opinion, focusing exclusively on what the Democrats have failed to do, their heads in the sand, I think you should have spent more time, being the armchair quarterback here, talking to Constantine about the failures of the Republican Party.
That's fair.
Because I disagree. I don't know any Democrat, unless I've missed something from AOC or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib, where they want open borders. And this particular,
not an elected Democrat, no.
Fair enough. Yeah. But I think that's also something as a broader distinction worth making. You talk about the progressive fringe a lot in this conversation, and it's clearly something that they want to emphasize on. This is really a series of agreements and reaffirmations between you and the Triggernometry co-host. But I think another distinction worth making is saying, hey, Constantine, just FYI, the critical difference between the people that we both agree, you and them, are crazy on the left versus those who are crazy on the right is that the right are much more likely to elect their crazies and give them state power.
So I thought this is a pretty good angle to come at her with. Because it is just, this is what she always does. This is what she's always looking for. Her idea of building bridges, of working with other people, is just going on their show and fucking sucking them off and agreeing with them the whole time. Going, yeah, wow, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we can all come together on that. We can all come together, and always spinning it in some way to where she can pretend like they're all agreeing. So if you're not making your position like truly known, or like actually pushing for something, you are basically you're just there to be a house wigger. No? That's all you are.
Power than those on the left. That I think that's also something worth mentioning, that the people who sabotaged this border bill weren't people on Twitter, even though certainly progressives complained about it. It was the Republicans. And so that's just, to me, it's like, I'm not asking you to say Democrats are perfect, Republicans are pure evil.
Sure.
But I think it's worth spending your time on, especially if the whole point is building a bridge. Well, are you crossing the bridge to them, or is this a bridge where you meet in the middle? Because if it is, then either Constantine
he's
on his own initiative has to meet you in the middle, or if he won't, you should try to coax him over. Like, hey,
yeah, I knew this guy was like, okay, kind of boring, but okay, but this is winning me over on Pondering Politics here. He's kind of spitting here.
Honestly, I've given you a little. I've talked shit about the left here in good faith. This is something I share. Why don't you give me something of the right? Like, what is the right done? What's Trump done? What's the Republicans done? There was none of that. No.
I think that's fair. One of the talking points I did prepare a lot to talk about was an election denialism, which, in my view, is the hard stop of why you just can't vote for a Republican, right? I think no matter how you feel about any given policy, the Constitution and the peaceful transfer of power, that trumps, even for me, abortion, trans rights. There's nothing more important than that.
Agreed.
And the Republicans don't seem to believe in that. So that was something I'd really planned for, and the conversation didn't go there. So please go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say, may I point this out, because it's funny you say that. This was kind of another point that was a source of frustration for me, just with the dialogue there, because I agree they didn't really invite any conversation for you to talk about the electoral denialism within the GOP. But at the 47-14 mark, I also had this noted, that the other guy, the co-pilot, whose name escapes us both, he says...
I need to Google this. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, or maybe it was Constantine. I just have host written down. I thought it was the other guy, but he says if Donald Trump is reelected...
It's Francis.
It's Francis, thank you. It's Francis. So
we got it. Don't worry, Francis.
Okay.
We got
Frank.
You're not forgotten.
Yeah. But the host at 47-14, and I should have put down if it was Constantine or if it was Francis, he says, if Donald Trump is reelected, you will see a progressive meltdown on a scale that will dwarf 2016, which will only make the country worse and the left way more unelectable. And you responded with, that's right, they don't believe in democracy, they being the fringe left. To me, that would have been a perfect opportunity for you.
Wait. That is insane ground for Wu to cede. What? Wait, let me just run that quote back. What?
Frank.
You're not forgotten.
Yeah. But the host at 47-14, and I should have put down if it was Constantine or if it was Francis, he says, if Donald Trump is reelected, you will see a progressive meltdown on a scale that will dwarf 2016, which will only make the country worse and the left way more unelectable. And you responded with, that's right, they don't believe in democracy, they being the fringe left. To me, that would have been
like accepting the framing of that as like a progressive meltdown, of the response to that's going to be a progressive meltdown. And it's the progressives that don't believe in democracy, the lefties that don't believe in democracy. That's so bizarre to cede all of that ground. Because I feel like, from Wu's perspective, okay, I am transposing Destiny's view onto Wu. I am assuming that she's basically wholesale DGG. Okay? I am. I haven't heard her say this. I'm assuming so. Even if Trump got legitimately re-elected, from Wu's perspective, would that not be like the biggest threat to Western democracy in forever? Basically. The response to that, from her perspective, should not be a progressive meltdown. It should be like a justified response, a justified freak out over a potentially disastrous event for the future of her country. But she just accepts the framing that it would be a progressive meltdown, it's totally unreasonable. And also that it's the progressives that don't care about democracy, not the ones who deny the results of an election and then are now voting for a guy who openly basically wants to subvert democracy. Okay, whatever.
A perfect opportunity for you to use that platform to also emphasize that paramount concern. Say, but also, Francis and or Constantine, if we're going to talk about meltdowns, there's a chance that Donald Trump might not win. And do you recall what happened, Constantine and or Francis, the last time Donald Trump lost an election? They tried to stage an insurrection. The left never did that. That is one area where just objectively the right transgressed much worse. So what do you have to say about that, Constantine and or Francis? Like, can we, if we're gonna,
do you think it's fucking easy for you to sit here and just?
Huh? What? Dude. I thought the heavy breathing was her, like, suffering. I thought that was her suffering. I didn't say I am eating at the same time, so I'm not saying a lot in between pauses anyway. But I thought she was just, like, suffering. I thought she was just struggling for air. But no, she was heavy sighing. She was, like, getting pissed off. Well, this guy's, like, not saying anything unreasonable.
2016, which will only make the country worse and the left way more unelectable. And you responded with, that's right, they don't believe in democracy, they being the fringe left. To me, that would have been a perfect opportunity for you to use that platform to also emphasize that paramount concern. Say, but also, Francis and or Constantine, if we're going to talk about meltdown, there's a chance that Donald Trump might not win. And do you recall what happened, Constantine and or Francis, the last time Donald Trump lost an election? They tried to stage an insurrection. The left never did that. That is one area where just objectively.
I mean, he's being totally reasonable here. Totally reasonable.
The right transgressed much worse. So what do you have to say about that, Constantine and or Francis? Like, can we, if we're going to...
Do you think it's fucking easy for you to sit here and just, like, go through clips and go, like, why didn't you say this? I mean, do you not think I could dial up your own show and look at a transcript and do this to you all day?
Wait. But it's not about getting owns on you. He's not trying to get owns on her. He's not trying to get owns on her. It's not like he's saying, wow, you fucked this up, Brianna. Wow, you're so dumb, Brianna. He's like, don't you think this would have been, like, a better way to have gone about this? Don't you think this would have been more effective? Maybe next time you do something like this, you could do this. I'm just wondering what your goals are here when you do this. Do you think it's fucking easy? Do you think it's fucking easy? You really think I can think of all this fucking stuff on the spot? Like, no, they're offering you some criticism. Like, yeah, obviously when you do a debate, it's difficult, or a conversation, it's difficult to remember everything on the spot and make your points in the best way possible in the moment. But then afterwards, when you've done it, people might say, oh, this would have been a better way for you to have done that. This would have been a better strategy. And then next time you go and do a similar thing, you might be able to do it better. You might be able to achieve your goals more effectively. So yeah, it's called constructive criticism for a teammate. Yeah. They're on the same side. Oh, man.
Do you know how, like, you understand this is kind of, it's kind of condescending, right? Like, you get that, right?
So, I said that it's armchair quarterbacking earlier, and if
he's not being condescending at all. He's talking to her very reasonably and politely. I don't...
So, I said that it's armchair quarterbacking earlier, and if this is the kind of the conversation, right, where I disagree about your approach. But Brianna, if that's a problem, then we shouldn't even continue the conversation, because that's...
I'm just saying it's really easy to sit here and go, you should have said X, you should have said Y. I mean, I don't disagree with you that I probably should have shown up and prepared to defend Biden more. The clips of Triggernometry that I prepared...
Look at this little rat as well. Look at this little rat in the top right. Fucking his beady little eyes darting around. He doesn't know what to do. She's flipping out. And now he's feeling a bit awkward about it. He doesn't quite know what to do. Look at his beady little eyes.
This to you all day. Do you know how, like, you understand this is kind of, it's kind of condescending, right? Like, you get that, right?
So, I said that it's armchair quarterbacking earlier, and if this is the kind of the conversation, right, where I disagree about your approach. But Brianna, if that's a problem, then we shouldn't even continue the conversation, because that's...
I'm just saying it's really easy to sit here and go, you should have said X, you should have said Y. I mean, I don't disagree with you that I probably should have shown up and prepared to defend Biden more. The clips of Triggernometry that I prepared to watch for, and I could show you the clips I traded back and forth with the producers as I asked for every single interview he'd ever given on trans stuff, and I watched all of those 3 or 4 times, preparing for that and getting my talking points ready on that. I completely cede that I should have been prepared to go more aggressive on defending Democrats. We're in agreement on that. I'm just saying it is so easy to sit here and like, I'm sure if I went back and looked at it, I would find tons of stuff that I could say differently or better, right? It's just...
Yeah, it's true. No, I'm going to give you this one, right? And I don't think Josiah would disagree that, yes.
Not at all.
For me, I look back on some of the stuff I sometimes I go on shows or I do my own shows and I look back and it's like, man, I missed that, I missed the other. It's very hard in the moment to get things exactly right. So what I don't want this to...
I bet Whick, when he gets off the stream, just has this horrible feeling of embarrassment. I can imagine the shame he feels after he gets on the stream and turns red, fucking screeching and spitting through his teeth. Holy shit, man. Just imagine the shame he must feel when he sits back down and he watches that recording back. Holy fuck.
And I'm trying not to make this is to have this be like a thing where we just tear you down the whole time, because that's not, because as I told you in private, and I'll just say public, like 80% of that, what you did in there, good. I stand it. We should do more of it. And it's
incredibly difficult to go into these spaces.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and if I may finish, though, just real quick, right?
Sure.
Like the fact that you were willing to...
It's not really difficult, though. These are total fluff interviews. This isn't really difficult. Brianna Wo cannot handle difficult interactions whatsoever. I'm proof of that. This is not a difficult interaction. These are very professional, very measured, polite spaces. It's not very difficult to go here at all.
To go into a potentially hostile situation, a hostile podcast.
It wasn't
confront
hostile.
People directly and admit to the faults in your own side, right? And then have that discussion, put you head and shoulders above all these people who are calling you out for even going on. And if I want just briefly to transition to that for a moment, to talk about that a little bit, because one of the reasons I invited you on tonight is because I saw people like
sweeping is crazy
and all these other people come at you for...
He was probably right.
Oh, is this Wu leaving the left? How dare she be nice to Republicans or centrists, or how dare she...
Dude, what was that noise?
I saw people like Sock Done Left and all these other people come at you for, oh, is this Wu leaving the left? How dare she be nice to Republicans or centrists, or how dare she...
She has the phrase, leaving the left, and she's like, oh. Fucking smog waking up. Smog waking up, just like fucking breathing fire. Oh.
Oh, look, Elon Musk tweeted at her, oh, this must be her being an apologist. And I just wanted to kind of not only give you a chance to respond to that. Oh, you okay, Josiah? Oh.
Sorry, my girlfriend popped in. I was just saying later.
Oh, no, it's okay,
Yeah.
It's okay. But also to just kind of reinforce how this... When people say that we look crazy and the left looks crazy, this is what they mean. And doing this kind of clubhouse mentality...
They can't see me rolling my eyes. Need to grunt sigh.
If you don't agree with us 100%, you're kicked out of the clubhouse or you're leaving the clubhouse, it's hurting our cause and it's really bad. But I want to give you a chance to respond and tell us about that side of things. And then we can, I promise we got some more stuff to go over, right? But I wanted to just give you that opportunity.
So, Josiah, this is where I think the work I do, and I say this respectfully because I know that we are friends, but I think that what I do is harder than what you do to an extent.
Oh, bro.
or you're leaving the clubhouse is it's hurting our cause and it's really bad. But I want to give you a chance to respond and tell us about that side of things. And then we can, I promise we got some more stuff to go over, right? But I wanted to just give you that.
Big dogging is crazy.
This is where I think the work I do, and I say this respectfully because I know that we are friends, but I think that what I do is harder than what you do to an extent.
The disrespect is crazy. The disrespect is crazy, man. That's nuts.
It's not difficult to go be 100% Team Democrat and to make the conscious decision to never criticize your own side or rarely criticize your own side unless it's Rihanna Wo, or, you know, or to stay away largely with your show around really difficult subjects like what the trans rights movement should be doing. You know, that is something I feel a tremendous ethical responsibility to do. I genuinely... guys, you have to understand, Brianna Wo is just such a conscientious person. All of her decisions are just based on what she thinks is right, not based on getting attention and personal gain. Okay, guys? She's a hero. It's what you don't understand. The core of my soul believe that if trans rights stays on the course we're going right now, we will lose everything. Access to HRT, gender-affirming care, insurance paying for it is within my lifetime that most trans people could not get GRS because Obamacare didn't cover it, right? It is amazing. And all of this stuff is very much at risk. So you know, the thing I am trying to do, which is to point out that some of the extremists on our own side, I understand that it's distasteful to you. But what I have seen, and I'm 46, is I've seen that by leaving these fringes unaddressed, our party just keeps getting weaker and weaker, and we are handing the Republicans the machine gun they need to kill all of us. And let me give you a very, very...
Yeah, Brianna's the omni N-word. You don't understand. She's the N-word of all N-words. The N-word beneath the feet of the most callous, dirty... Very
specific example. I think that if Biden loses this election, it is going to be partially because we have not tended to the Jewish
I am Israel.
In this country.
I am Israel.
We need that coalition.
They are Palestine.
Democrats. They donate money. They donate time. I've never worked on a social justice cause in Massachusetts or elsewhere that's not had a lot of Jewish people there. And I think a lot of our politicians have been afraid to really talk about the anti-Semitic fringe and what they are doing here. And that is a role I feel respectfully you have advocated and abdicated.
But you're obligated to call out the anti-Semitic fringe? Democrats and moderate left-leaning liberals are obligated to call out Hamas supporting anti-Semitic fringe left-wingers? What? This is like beyond even do you denounce Hamas? This is like... Do you denounce the people that don't denounce Hamas? Okay.
This country. We need that coalition to win as Democrats. They donate money. They donate time. I've never worked on a social justice cause in Massachusetts or elsewhere that's not had a lot of Jewish people there. And I think a lot of our politicians have been afraid to really talk about the anti-Semitic fringe and what they are doing here. And that is a role I feel respectfully you have advocated and abdicated. And I think it leaves our party weaker. So, I hear what you're saying about tactics A, B, and C and how I might have done them better, but I'm trying to do a different job here. I'm trying to steer the Democratic Party back in a direction as someone that does have credibility on these issues to something that I think will be more successful electorally.
What, you don't have any credibility, Brianna? Look at the comments on that Triggernometry episode, Brianna. This is what happens the moment you leave your gay little DGG bubble that you've managed to create for yourself over the last year. Everyone fucking hates you. There's one person here saying you're cool.
Morally. And I think that's a really important political project.
I want to ask you, Josiah, right? Since you're here
Sure.
too, right? I have some issues with both of you here, right? Like I have some issues with Wu. We're gonna go through them.
I am well aware of our issues.
Exactly.
You and I hashed them out.
We've had this conversation before, but I think it's worth bringing back up, right? One of the things that Wu says here,
dying and noises are just crazy.
I just think is correct, right? That in a lot of ways you. And again, we're buddies, bro. Okay, this isn't an attack.
I won't take it personally.
Yeah, you fail to keep our house in order. One of the problems we have is I understand you want to keep the focus on MAGA Republicans because they're worse. I agree. I'm not a Republican. I'm a Democrat, right? For a good reason. Yeah. But I think it makes it harder for the normie, the undecided, the maybe center-right leaning or maybe center-left leaning person.
Dude, why is this chat all just talking about President Sunday?
To take us seriously when we are refused to say the sun is shining when it's shining, right? Like we refuse to acknowledge just these basic facts of, yeah, there's a big anti-Semitism problem on the fringes of the left and the right, right? And so I think my question for you, sir, is in what ways or why don't you do that more? I guess I'll start by asking. Yeah, why have you just kind of decided to focus on MAGA?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So number one, I just want to say again for the record, I completely disagree with anyone who says that conversations with Triggernometry are not worth having. I think that's a judgment call. There are probably some people, I imagine, that it would not be worth engaging with, but I don't think Triggernometry is one of them. David Pakman's been on Triggernometry, Steven Destiny's been on Triggernometry, Bill Maher, and a bunch of others as well. I think that they are perfectly within the Overton window of acceptable dialogue. I just think it's what you do with that opportunity which matters, and that's where the disagreement between Brianna and I is. Now, as far as, her goals being different, again, I totally understand that she is trying to appeal to more moderate people, more centrist people, perhaps Republicans who could be won over. And so she goes on to these platforms and tries to establish a rapport with the hosts. She says that she's received dozens, hundreds of emails saying that, hey, you've kind of moved me on this issue. So, I mean, I can't fight that. I have no idea, what those emails say. She says,
the old Destiny tactic, the mythical hundreds of emails. You see, I know I'm right about this because I've got hundreds of emails telling me I'm right about this. Oh, man. I got an email the other day that said, Destiny, you're a really cool guy, and you're really awesome. I'm a trans woman who thinks you're really cool, and you're like the best trans warrior on the internet. Hey guys, check out this email I just got. Isn't this really cool? I think I've literally seen that segment on a stream like 30 times.
that they've been won over. I've got to take that at face value. I can just only opine on what it looks like externally, which is, again, I think she was too generous with the opposing side and extracted no meaningful concessions from Triggernometry. But I take her point. Somebody's going to have these conversations. I have not been invited on Triggernometry, and I don't know how it would be.
If you
of course,
would you?
Of course, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, there's no reason not to. I'd love to be on. That's why I'm on Piers Morgan's ass all the time too. I'm hoping eventually, once I crack 500,000 subscribers or something like that, I can be on Piers Morgan.
You gotta get that clout, bro.
That's right, baby. That's right. So I'm hoping that'll eventually happen. But again, I don't fault any for this, and I also take the point. Again, to say it is easy to do an after-game review, like they do in sports, and say, you shouldn't toss the ball here, whatever.
You too, if you trust me.
Well, but respectfully, that's not my statement. My statement was my political project is more difficult than yours. I don't think it's hard to go and produce a show that's like just attacking the Republicans, right? I think it is much more difficult to be in groups and to see the fringe politics driving it off a cliff and to speak up against that. Josiah,
see, this is the thing. Her entire view of politics is about Twitter. It's all about Twitter, her Twitter mutuals, her Twitter friends. That's what it's all about. She's like, oh, in these groups, and then you get fringe people saying crazy stuff, and you get kicked out for standing up to it. She's just talking about herself and her experience of Twitter. It's got no bearing on reality, no bearing on the real world. It's all on the internet. It's all on the internet and in college campuses, but very little bearing in the real world. Some of it trickles downstream, some of it doesn't. Some extremist ideas move more into the mainstream, and some don't. Some are always excluded. That's the way things go. But Brianna Wo is entirely focused on that super online, super like esoteric, cutting edge political discourse. Not even cutting edge, really, is it? It's like just it's people with no investment, so they can say insane stuff. They've got no buy-in because they're just on the internet, so they can just say insane shit whenever they want. And sometimes those insane ideas catch on and manifest a little bit more. It's not even really cutting it. It's just like, throwing shit at the wall. Like there's a million, it's like monkeys in a infinite monkeys with infinite amount of time, right in the work Shakespeare, that sort of thing, But she constantly talks about how all she cares about is policy. It's not the case. It's not the case. You don't care about policy. You never talk about policy.
Comes at such a high cost for my mental sanity and my peace. And, there's a dollar sign attached to that, right? What I consider to be a very principled stand on October 7th, this is a fight that you've largely sat out. And I'm sure it's been great for your channel growth. And I don't fault you. You don't have to do what I do. But I do think it's a braver choice.
Oh, true. And what? Pondering is the real grifter. Dude, what is this?
Folks, unless you're new to the
I mean, this is good for his channel. The stuff he does is obviously good for his channel. But what this guy is covering, stuff that's happening on mainstream media, stuff that's going on in Supreme Court, stuff that's going on in Congress, stuff that's going on in the Senate, the campaigns, the election. What more do you? He's taking a stance. He's pushing his politics. He's talking about things that are happening that matter. Well, how is yours more brave? I don't get it.
And I think it's not that I don't think you have a right to sit here and go, you should have done A, B, and C. But from my point of view, I don't see a lot of what you do as a profile in courage.
I'll let you respond. Don't worry. But
what is this all about? What is this shit? I don't see what you're like. She's calling him like a coward because he's given us some slight pushback and said you should have affirmed your beliefs a bit further. What is going on? What is this attack? This is so weak.
Woo, can I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
Do you fault him for that? Do you think that he has to? I would disagree with you on that. I think that
I did say that. I literally just said the opposite.
I'm just making sure.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm clarifying, okay? Because if I may stick up for Josiah for a moment, right? You're right. He does something different than I do, something different than you do. But I think that thing has value, and I think there is a form of courage and honesty in saying, hey, I don't know enough about this topic. It's very super complex. I don't know, so I'm not going to weigh in. And I honestly applaud you for doing that. I should do that more. I should say, you know what? I don't actually know much about this, so I should probably shut up. That's a flaw I have. I like to talk, but Josiah, I just want to stick up for you a little bit here because Josiah, I think you're great. You're awesome.
I appreciate that.
But please,
yeah.
Woo, if you're not finished, you can finish. And then
Josiah is channeling every amount of focus and meditation, all the mindfulness techniques he can to just not end Brianna right here, right now. I can see it in his face. It's so clear.
Cool.
I appreciate you chiming in, Whick, but I'm trying to ask Josiah questions, and I just kind of want to answer for that.
Sure.
I mean, do you hear where I'm coming from with that?
Oh my God. These are the technical issues I'm talking about.
Saved by tech issues.
two, can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Is the camera still showing?
Why is he
No,
conceding
camera's
this,
not
though?
showing.
Pathetic.
Hang on. Okay, so you all be able to hear me, but I'm going to shut the camera off and try to turn it back on. So anyway, so I do hear from where you're coming from, Brianna, that it is certainly a much more volatile space to in terms of being attacked by the left than what I do. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But it is also a choice that I made for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't know nearly as much about this issue. Foreign policy was not, I have a political science degree, but foreign policy was not my area of focus. It was more domestic policy and electoral politics. So number one, I try to stay out of areas that I don't know enough about. Number two, because I am covering electoral politics and domestic policy in an election year, I just don't have the bandwidth to even cover it, even if I wanted to. And number three, I take your point. Again, just want to reiterate that, of course, it is a much more contentious area for you to do what you're doing. But I would also argue respectfully that the courage has to manifest itself if you're going to talk about these issues with the quote unquote opposition that you're trying to make bridges with. You also need to confront them about your disagreements. And I don't think.
Okay, no, he's okay. This guy is tiptoeing so fucking hard. It's so. I wish he wasn't, because I want to just see him say what he's thinking right now. But he's tiptoeing so fucking hard here, because what he's basically just turned around and said is, I get that you think you're brave, but whenever you go on these shows, you're acting like a pussy. But he hasn't just said it. He's worked around it very carefully.
Think you did. So I think it's two different aspects of courage. I'll perfectly concede to the one, but I don't think it was particularly brave for you to spend most of your time agreeing with Constantine and Francis. And I know you're capable of enormous courage. I just don't think like this particular one was a standout example of it. But I don't fault you for that, because again, I get the pressure that you're under, but I just think you could have stood up a bit more for some of these issues.
So this is the math as I see it, and maybe this is just a difference in what we think the Democrats should be doing. As best as I can tell, progressives or the fringe left represents between 1% to 2% of the electorate. I've looked at the numbers as honestly as I can. As far as the people that actually show up and vote, that's what it looks like to me. The fastest growing segment of the American electorate are independents. They're 42% of the party, right? And a lot of these do lean right. But, you know, a lot of people are looking at the crazies on both sides and they're going, I can't vote for either of them. And, you know, part of it is because like accounts like Libs of TikTok are amplifying the fringe, and, you know, Fox News amplifies our fringe and equates them with MAGA. I think all three of us would probably agree that like there's a lot more MAGA than there are like fringe crazy communist progressive. Right. But it still needs an answer. Right. So let me give you a hypothetical. Like Lauren Southern is going to be coming over here to do a shoot on.
Oh my God, this shit, dude! She's literally nothing has made this fucking homunculus happier in its entire life than this fucking Lauren Southern photo shoot or whatever the fuck's going on. Lauren Southern video where they're racing Porsches. Nothing has made this person happier. And neither of these people matter anymore. Like, oh wait, did Lauren Southern make a comeback? I can't remember whether she stopped making videos or not. Oh no, Lauren Southern made a comeback. But she still ain't what she was. Like, what's her most popular video? Yeah, she's got like, she used to be like millions of views, but now she's like 100K. Man, I remember when Lauren Southern would, you'd see like her videos just go around on Facebook and shit. Back in like 2016 or whatever. But yeah, I'm lost, frankly. Like what? Which Lauren Southern fans are being won over to the Democrat side? Lauren Southern is broadly to any mainstream person known as the Christchurch shooting one that inspired the Christchurch shooting, the one that got a bunch of money from that guy. She didn't get the money. The money went to an org that was loosely affiliated with the org that she went and visited when she did her documentary, I believe, right? Was that it? And then she was mentioned in the manifesto. Was it that one?
Yuki Ichigo super chatted $1.99. Subscribe to PewEP.
Yeah. So Branson Tarrant donated to Generation Identity, which was that is the org that the people on the boat were with when she was shooting flare guns at migrants, but not technically quite that kind of. So, like, who are the people that are following Lauren Southern at this point? It's not people that are going to be won over to Democrats. And they're certainly not going to be won over on the basis of trans issues. So I don't even know what her goal is there.
It's going to be September. Early September, right? We hated each other during Gamergate, screamed at each other all the time. She had a child. She has really she's talked about this, she has a much bigger awareness of the challenges that women face in the workplace and kind of what the role of feminism is. I personally have had, a lot of disillusionment with a lot of the progressive policies that I was advocating during Gamergate, right? So, like, for a conversation like that, do you think, like, is it more helpful for me with Lauren Southern to sit down and go like, oh, I just hate you, you're completely wrong about this?
No,
or to sit down and go like, hey, this is what I've learned in the last decade, this is what you've learned in the last decade, we disagree on this, let's talk about immigration.
Gamegate mention. Guys, anyone got bingo yet?
Going to be staying at the hotel where my state of Massachusetts is putting a lot of the migrants that have come here up. So, to talk about how that's affected the Massachusetts budget, right? Or what the public policy should be about that. I think that, like, building bridges for the, like, calculated purpose of appealing to that 42%, that seems like a really smart mission to me, but maybe disagree.
No, I listen. So, not the world's foremost expert on Lauren Southern, but from my limited understanding is, and you kind of hinted at it, she seems to be moderating in certain aspects compared to where she was, 2, 3, or 4 years ago, or however long ago it was. I think, unless there's something about her that I'm missing, I think that's a totally worthwhile endeavor. But Brianna, that's precisely the point. I think she'll reciprocate. I think you can say, hey, listen, Lauren, here are things that I dislike about the left. And then you guys beat up on the left. And then I think, maybe I'm wrong, Lauren would say, you know what sucks about the right? And then you guys, but Constantine didn't do that. That to me is the difference. So I think that this is a great example of where I think it may be much more fruitful than the conversation that you had with Triggernometry, because I think unlike Constantine and Francis.
Stafrex super chatted $9.99. Lauren, my work is more meaningful than yours. I do more work than you. Thoughts?
Oh, would Brianna say that? I feel like Lauren's got good metrics for the effectiveness of her work. No? She's got numbers, a body count almost. Bang a video idea. She said in the Triggernometry video that trans people aren't important. Then in this video where she's mad at Pondering, he doesn't have 20 trans vids. All the contradictions. I'm not passing that.
Based on my understanding, Lauren Southern is willing to actually she's willing to reciprocate your charity and talk about the crazies on her side and how it's been deleterious to the overall movement. That was not the case in Triggernometry. They did not care to reciprocate your charity at all. It was just completely, let's talk about the 30 million ways why the left sucks. And so that's why I think Lauren Southern will be more productive, or at least has the potential to be.
That's fair. I do think you misunderstand. Have you read Constantine's book by chance? Because I feel like people really misunderstand him. So, he is basically someone that escaped communism, came to the West. He's Jewish and really, really, really fell in love with Western values, which I know you say Western values, you think of that as like a right-wing catchphrase, but he really means it in the sense of like liberalism, enlightened multiculturalism, free speech, free markets, all that kind of stuff. That's fundamentally where he's coming from. And I think a lot of what people perceive as right-wing is really, I think the outcome is the policies he talks about are more right-wing, but I don't think it's because he's a right-wing ideologue. I think it's because the right wing talks about the value of all of those things more than we do, which is why I appreciate what you do, Whick, which is talk a lot about free speech and the value of it. Yeah.
If I may, because I remembered the exact point I wanted to make, once you brought up Constantine and his values and things like that. During the show, he mentions Ukraine, and you guys talk about Ukraine. One of the statements he makes is that Ukraine, we need to start moving towards pushing for peace in that region, right? For pushing for Ukraine to sit down with Russia. If I was there, okay, that's where I would have been like, nope, hold on, we have some discussions to have here. I don't remember.
Yeah, she literally, okay, just to remind you, she literally clapped along when Constantine proposed, his proposal is just, Trump should go to Russia and say, we're going to give Ukraine everything if you don't agree to a favorable deal about the territory now. And that's the solution. She's like clapping like a fucking seal, like a moron. Mouth breathing woo mogs all opposition. Thank you, Kenny. So yeah, she was totally on board with his retarded idea.
Remember what I said in that moment? Can you remind me? Yeah.
I don't think you addressed the point, which is the issue, right? Like, so what happened, like, when people say these things, right, and when people just say something, so what I felt was just miss the mark. And again, I don't mind Constantine. I think he's right on a lot of things, but he's wrong on more. And this is one of those things he's wrong.
Dude, you're such a hypocrite. You lon about Wu not taking a stand, but you would sit there and let Chud push his gok agenda.
Thank you, Blazito98 for 333. Chud pushes gok agenda. What, you mean when he's saying stuff like a trans girl without a penis is like an angel without his wings? You mean like when he says stuff like that? You want me to push back more?
On, and I think that we should have just you should have just, when you were there, and again Monday morning quarterbacking, I get it, but it's one of those things that just, it made me like, I wish I was there. I wish I had been in the seat to push back against these things. But I wanted to ask, and this is to both of you, actually. We talk about the fringe, and one of the things that, Josiah, you've said before about the fringe of the left is that they are not in any position of political power. And that's largely true. But where you and I disagree on this, where you and I disagree on this is, I think that they have political influence that is outsized by their legislative representation. And I just wonder how much you worry about a lot of the fringe left being anti-Biden, not just neutral on Biden, but outright, we're not going to vote for Genocide Joe. So how do you deal with that? And then I want to hear Brianna's opinion too, but I want to toss it to you first and get your thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, so of course there are things I see on Twitter. There are conversations that I have privately. I've had them publicly with the guys from the Vanguard, are a great example, who are... Also, guys, now is actually a great time to remind you. Please like, subscribe, donate, buy a membership, gift a membership, buy a super chat. Go to discord.gg/Kuihman, twitter.com/Kuihman, reddit.com/r/Kuihman.
Also, you can buy merch from the channel page. Thank you.
Leftists who are anti-Biden, and I think they're veering more towards anti-electoralism. I frequently engage with them. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to be having a conversation with them on Sunday. We'll see how that goes based on the current workload. Another one. God damn it. The camera dip out again?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, just no, don't apologize. It's shit on my end. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I meant before the conversation that we had in private.
Sure.
So yeah, there are people on the left and shit that I see on Twitter that drives me nuts. And even from people that I consider like good friends that I have disagreements with. But
yo, thank you for 5 gifted, Ryan Thomas. Thank you.
Here's how I look at it. And again, you may disagree, but I think it is sound logic. I'm a finite person with a finite set of skills and a finite area of knowledge. And right now, I don't have the bandwidth to try to master it.
Yo, and Q, thank you for the 5 gifted. Thank you, guys.
Everything. And so I basically pick my battles, as I feel that we all do. I don't think anybody's indiscriminate. And so when I evaluate my quote-unquote targets, I see that the Republican Party is objectively worse. And unless something has happened with Brianna, which I don't think it has, she would agree. The Republican Party is just worse than the Democratic Party. They elect their crazies. They give them state power. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not some lunatic on Twitter. Well, she is, but she's got an official office Twitter, right? We don't see that nearly as often on the left. And I will never pretend that these two sides are comparable.
Well, no one's asking you to, but what I am asking.
I understand. So, but let me finish. So the reason that I hyperfixate on the right is because I believe that they are the biggest and most proximate threat. But to tell you, as I believe I've told you before, but to reaffirm, of course I take issue with what's going on aspects of the left, particularly on social media, and certainly the anti-electoralism. It's incredibly dangerous.
Do you think it's going to have an effect, is my question. Like, how worried about it are you, was like the specific question. How much do you think this is going to impact the upcoming election?
I don't. So it's going to be a razor thin election, and I think it's possible that it will have an effect. But I also I don't know. That's the problem. Okay. And that's also, again, one of the reasons why I engage with, again, the likes of the Vanguard, because they are anti-Biden and anti-electoral at this point. I think that they're either going to vote third party or not at all. And yeah, I do think that is a problem worth responding to, but I also think it's important to keep it in perspective. I would never make 50% of my time, let alone the totality of my time or the majority of my time, focusing on policing the the left, unless I was on the right. Like, I feel that at the...
Oh, owned and mogged. It is just blatantly retarded. Like, anyone who's claiming to be seriously engaged with actual politics, like, I'll sit here and I'm like mostly, a center-left liberal, but I'll sit here and cry about all the lefties online all the time, because I don't give a fuck. I know what's happening in my country. I don't care. I'll sit here and shit on retired lefties because all I care about is that there's people that are annoying me in my vicinity online. And that's really where my investment starts and stops. For Wu, she's billing herself as a political activist. There's almost no benefit to sitting there spending your entire time just lamenting how stupid some of the people on your side are. Like, there's almost no benefit to that.
The end of the day, you got to triage, and the biggest obstacle is the right.
I want to toss the same question to Brianna Wo and let her go. And gang, just a housekeeping thing. I will be reading the super chats which you're giving. I'll be reading those in about 10 minutes at the top of the hour. So keep sending me money.
Did the camera come back on?
Yes, you're good. Wu, take it away.
So I'm extremely worried about this, and Josiah, this is where I think you're wrong. Because I think you're assuming the only way to have power is to have electoral power, and that is not true. I think the fringe left has
Brianna wants social media power. She wants internet power. She wants to have an internet personal army.
A lot of media power, and I think they have a lot of power in silencing
just like
people
Destiny.
that they disagree with. A really good example, Anna Kasparian and her entire controversy with birthing person, right? This is something, I'm sorry if you
She debated Kuihman without a PV moderator. Count of wins. You are asking to get fucking dogpiled right now, aren't you?
talk to cis women, the majority of them entirely agree with Anna. It is obviously wildly dehumanizing to be called, like, defined by your reproductive organs, right? But the way the fringe left took this issue is to make her pay a price for this. If you look at the way the fringe left wields cultural power, you have medical institutions, Planned Parenthood, just across the board that's really steering away from language to even say man or woman when it's coming to healthcare stuff. And this has it is power being exercised. And my objection to it isn't like some weird gender critical turfy objection to it. My problem with it is it makes people hate trans people and not want to support trans rights. I've got a really big problem with that. So the way that they are wielding that power, it doesn't just affect Biden on the issues that I care about the very.
Truth Wizard super chatted $10. Fun fact, Brianna Wo isn't actually breathing. When she opens her mouth, corpse gas escapes, causing the illusion of gasping. Brianna Wo is an immortal lich.
Okay, thank you for the $10, Truth Wizard. Thank you.
Most, the fringe left is making it so we are unelectable. So I have a massive, massive problem with that. And I think you're really discounting how big the threat is.
Can we unpack that for a minute? Because again,
please,
correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Seriously, correct me if I'm wrong. But wasn't Anna Kasparian upset because of language that was used in legislation to refer to birthing person? Not saying that you're suggesting this, but as far as I'm aware, it wasn't like MSNBC and CNN stopped referring to women when it came to having kids and don't refer only to birthing people.
No, I think it was some organization was saying birthing person, some healthcare organization was saying that as far as providing gynecological care. That's as I'm remembering it. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think it was legislation.
We may be on the same page because I thought it was about legislation referencing gynecological, prenatal and neonatal care. That was my understanding. And she was triggered, from my understanding, that the language in the bill and that the language that people were advocating being used in the bill referred to birthing person, which I think is actually pretty anodyne, given that, that it's not just, biological or assigned to birth women can have kids, right? I as far as I'm aware, it was not like this.
Are you really going to pretend that there's not a trans project to erase any, to rewrite all of this language? Because there obviously is, man. I mean, come on. Let's get real.
Yeah, but let's get real. I don't know how widespread that is, Brianna, because, again, I pay attention to electoral politics. I pay attention to the news. It's entirely possible that I'm missing something.
Oh man, it's just like she's showing so clearly in real time how Twitter brain she is. It's like someone who actually gives a fuck about policy, is actually thinking about real politics, real shit that's actually happening, and she's just like, but what about the trans efforts? What about the trans is rewriting the definition of woman? It's like, you're a fucking schizo.
Something in between commercials, but one thing I do know. This is not the position of the Democratic Party. It's not the position of Joe Biden. And it's not the position of CNN, MSNBC, or the major news networks.
Far be it from me to deny that there are issues with trans healthcare in terms of the ideology of it and rushing into it far too quickly. And the fact that there's so little research on it, yet people are so adamant and dogmatic in the approach. Far be it from me to deny any of that. But the idea that this is like some pervasive societal issue that trans are rewriting the terms for woman. No, this is like the gay culture war topic. Doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant.
Networks. It's not the position, as far as I'm aware, of David Pakman, the Young Turks, major political commentators. So I don't know where it is. I'm sure it's out there.
There is a poll that just came out a couple of days ago, and I will link it to you after we get done, showing support for trans rights is plummeting quickly. And it is because of all of this stuff. And to be clear, a big part of this is accounts like Libs of TikTok picking the worst representatives for trans rights and advertising it. But the other part of it is there is this soft cultural power that is being wielded to do things that just don't make sense to normal people, and to get things like Planet Fitness. I don't know if you know this story, but there was someone, California passed a law that made it so if you want to change your gender, you don't have to do what you had to do 20 years ago, which is go to therapy, get a therapist to write a letter certifying that you have gender identity disorder, and take that letter and use it to go get hormones and your documentation changed. You can just go to the DMV and fill out a checkbox. Makes sense, like, hey, demedicalizing stuff, making it easier, sure. But what happened is someone who was a little pervert and was not trans, and someone who got off by showing their genitals to women abused that law to basically do this and go into a locker room and expose their genitals to women. And it was hard at the time. So, the thing is, those stories make it out into the mainstream.
Can you link me that story after?
Hold on. Let me finish. And it does make it very difficult to talk about this in a nuanced way because of that soft cultural power that is being employed. It's very hard to have a nuanced conversation about public policy, about what the public policy of California should be for changing your gender on driver's licenses, because it instantly gets dialed up to 11 and you're called a transphobe if you have anything but the most extreme position. This is really hard.
Okay. But the gender displayed on California driver's licenses. What are we talking about here? How many people does this even affect? Who cares? Who cares? Are you not meant to be facing down the biggest threat to democracy your country's ever seen? Or like at least the last 100 years? Is that not what is meant to be happening right now? Or internal threat? Maybe you could argue that World War II is a bigger threat. I don't know. Regardless. That's the perspective you're meant to be coming at this from. And you're talking about, but in California, you can self-ID your driver's license. Who cares?
Hurting the movement.
I want you to respond to that. Before you do, I would like a link to that story so I can review it at some time. But yeah, that's just to piggyback off that. The problem isn't so much that there's legislation, right? These things. It's that we can't talk about these things without a substantial portion of the fringe just excising you. I think. Pardon me for using you as an example, Brianna, but I think Brianna is an excellent example of this happening, and I can see it in my chat, my YouTube chat, and things like that. Any kind of bringing up of anything that does not fit the narrative that they have decided is what leftism is treated as transphobia, right-wing fear-mongering.
So I think self-ID is dumb. I think self-ID is bad. I don't think it should be the case that policy is in place. But does that occupy a serious amount of my thought? Is that a real motivator? Is that like something that's a key part of my evaluation? No, obviously not.
Excellent example of this happening, and I can see it in my chat, my YouTube chat, and things like that. Any kind of bringing up of anything that does not fit the narrative that they have decided is what leftism is treated as transphobia, right-wing fear-mongering, all these things. And it has turned off a substantial amount. Biden should be running away with this election. Biden should be running away with this election based on the facts at hand, based on how the economy is doing, right? Based on the fact that Trump is a convicted felon, based on the insurrection attempt in January 6th, based on all these facts, but he's not. And part of that is because we have let ourselves the dialogue, right, around these things, the discourse around these things, be captured by these crazies who have decided that if you disagree with them, and they don't have any real like legislative power, but for whatever reason, our elected officials have decided to grant them this power to affect how they talk about these things. Yeah, you get castigated, you get crucified, and I think it's. We have example after example after example of this happening. So I like, this is where I'll push back against you, Josiah. I just don't know how you can't see that, and it feels like you can't see that. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair to you, but respond, please.
No, listen. I think it comes down again to triage. I will acknowledge that there is a fringe movement, particularly on social media, who say crazy shit, and I recognize that. I don't know to what extent it animates or to what extent it's representative of the progressive movement. Twitter is not the most trafficked social media website, for example. It could be 5%, it could be 25%. I have no idea. For me, to the extent that I am aware of trans issues, I've covered them in the past, but as the election's gotten tighter, yes, it's been more focused on policies. It's been Republican legislation that's been the bane of trans people in this country. It's 100 anti-trans legislation or 100 anti-trans bills in 2021, then going to like 200 in 2022. Now,
I think what's happened, because there haven't been like broad legislative changes to make, as far as I'm aware, to make trans healthcare like crazy more accessible. It's just that a lot of it came down to like doctor discretion, and it was already relatively open. Like you could give these medications. So once the illness, once gender dysphoria was like a classification, and there was treatments associated with it, it was just sort of a thing that existed. And then it wasn't until there started being like a huge uptick in the amount of trans people there are due to whatever you want to, whether you think it's social contagion or some shit, or just increased visibility in people realizing they're trans. There wasn't like this huge legislative change that was like, okay, now we're doing trans healthcare. So like, what are you even really pushing back? Like, what are you concerned about? In the real world, there are reasonable, sometimes even unreasonable. Some states probably take it too far, but there are reasonable measures being put in place to be apprehensive with these treatments. The UK's had the Cass report and some pulling back on that, and the Tavistock clinic obviously got fucking fucked up because of their whistleblowing shit. That in Sweden and Nordic countries, they've started pulling back on puberty blockers and stuff like that. There's a totally reasonable in the institutions in real life, the ones that actually matter. Like you can have WPATH and stuff like that say insane stuff sometimes, but broadly, the institutions have a reasonable, apprehensive view on it. There's some shitty research that's done. There's some bad journalism that's done. But it's purely like a social, the huge trans push is basically a purely social media phenomenon. So to focus so much of your fucking time on it is so crazy if you're actually trying to affect some kind of change.
Now 500 in 2024. I think the primary culprit is the GOP. And to the extent that there are people on Twitter who are useful idiots that the GOP can weaponize and say, see, this person says this crazy shit and they've got, X number of likes or whatever. I think it suggests that the idea is we must somehow silence all the crazy people in a mass movement comprised of tens, if not hundreds of millions of people.
Isn't it because of the whistleblowing and the cultural pressure? Though? Yeah, but there's already the cultural pressure. It's not because of the cultural pressure from Brianna Wo spending all of her time talking about trans shit. It's because there's obviously going to be conservative-minded people who are going to react with apprehension, and you're going to need to demonstrate to them pretty fucking clearly that the surgeries work. It's not just surgeries, but whatever intervention works. Like, yeah, that's just how pretty much any issue is going to go usually. The idea that because there's like this tiny percentage of people on Twitter saying how we should actually trans everyone and we should groom kids, or some of Brianna's friends saying that, by the way, how we should actually trans everyone and we should be grooming kids with DIY HRT. That doesn't mean that there's actually this huge, broad social issue where trans ideology is infecting every layer of government.
And it's not possible.
That's not
there
what
will
I'm
always
asking.
Well,
That's
wait
not
a
what
minute.
I'm asking for. Yeah, finish. I'm sorry.
Do you? Well, then I'm not sure what you want from me, because I see it as there will always be crazy people in our movement, as there is in every movement. The question is,
please don't take this as a
Sure.
personal kind of. It's not. I'm not angry specifically at you. I think you do fine.
Sure.
You do better than me in a lot of ways, right? At what you do. But what I'm talking about, right? What I'm speaking to is this general tendency for people on the left who are more center, who are more, big D Democrat, to just cede this any kind of talking points to the fringe. And I think that we need to. I don't think we can silence them, but I think we can just make it very clear and more clear.
Oh yeah, true. Remember, she was morally condemning anyone who played the Harry Potter game. Yeah.
Than we have that. Oh, they're just the crazies. They're actually not a part of us. We're not going to pander them to all. They can go get fucked. That's it. Right. And I want to get to the super chats. I got to make a little money. So let me get through these super chats and then we'll get back into the discussion.
Sure.
Okay. You guys okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. $2 from Testicle Johnson. Should all beaches be nude?
Counterpoint saying, okay, I agree with this, Willie. When they say you just hate women and minorities in your media, they're right. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. I like seeing a white guy like me doing some cool shit. Sorry. That's what I want to see. Let the blacks have their stuff. But I don't want... Why are you making all the stuff about blacks and women? There aren't that many blacks and women that watch this stuff. Leave some for the white boys, you know?
Nude beaches, why or why not? Okay.
I'm thinking
I can enjoy some black people stuff too sometimes. I can enjoy black people stuff too. I'm pro, Miles Morales. He's just not Spider-Man.
I've seen people on beaches and would prefer that they remain clothed.
Fair enough. $5 from Harmony Ginger to say, Brianna, you did a great on the show. I don't always agree with you, but you spoke your mind and conducted yourself well. Don't be down on yourself. So thank you for the $5. $2 from Keto Burrito. I like Brianna for reaching across. Wish more.
Yeah, I think I was actually saying this about Doctor Who. I was saying, I don't want to see a gay black guy. I just don't want to see a gay black guy. Basically. That's just the reality. Nobody wants to watch that. Sorry. Just
did. $2 more from Keto Burrito. Whick, stop letting Sunday attack Pondering's cam. Fair enough. $10. I think that was a joke.
Damn you, Sunday. Are we referring to President Sunday? Damn you,
pretty sure.
Mr. President.
Moonlight's a good movie. See, I haven't watched it because I know it's about a gay black dude.
$10 from Per Thompson to say, Brianna, how does the law promote this perv from going into a women's bathroom and flashing women? I really don't understand what the law does to help this sick person. I'll let you address that real quick. We got one more, but yeah.
It's super quick. This is the very problem. Because of this soft power employed by the fringe, we cannot have a public policy discussion about what it should be for changing your gender, right? Should we go back to, you've got to get the, what used to be called the Benjamin?
Yeah, honestly, like Idris Elba Doctor Who I would watch. I say that's true. It's not racism. It is just homophobia. You're right. I just don't want to watch a flamboyant homosexual under any circumstances, really. Under basically any circumstances, I don't want to see a flamboyant homosexual ever. Real life in media. They should have, Idris Elba. I would have watched Idris Elba Doctor Who. That would have been goated. 100%. But a gay black guy? You're fucking joking.
Or the WPATH standards, where you get therapy, you're certified with gender dysphoria, your therapist writes a letter, and then you use that to start unlocking the doors? Or to be more friendly to non-binary people, should we have it where it's just on the honor system? We literally cannot have that discussion. This is my entire point. This is leading to bad public policy, or at the very least under-considered public policy.
Okay. And then finally, $20 from Lawson Harrison to say, I would bet that if we figure out how to divorce self-ID from transgender rights, that would resolve 90% of the general public's hesitations. Thank you. Oh my God, they attacked you again, Josiah. But back to the matter at hand, and gang, thank you for the money. If you like,
I'm listening.
Content,
I'm going to try to fuck with the setting, but I've got my mic here.
Yeah.
Homophobia is very rare. Most people just hate obnoxious people, regardless of whether they're straight or gay. Yeah, I mean, it's not really... It's about how he acts. He acts in a very gay way, in a way that is associated with homosexuals. But I don't care about whether he fucks dudes. That's not what I'm bothered by. I'm bothered by the way he acts. So is it even really homophobic? I'm absolving myself of bigotry on this one. Kind of absolving myself. I don't think this is bigoted at all. I hate the way they act. Flamboyant one. The flamboyant attitude is just horrific.
And I guess, look, I've talked a lot of shit on you, Josiah, so I feel like I need to give you the mic for a moment and let you
it's more like
castigate me a little bit. Your camera's back, by the way. I don't know what you did, but
yeah, I wonder if it's like set. I thought I had it set to.
Would you watch a movie about lesbians? What's that one Asian movie? What's the one Asian movie? The Handmaiden. That was good.
Instead of 4K, that might be the issue. It's like it's just burning out at 4K.
Yeah, but I wanted to,
anyway.
because I know that we've had these discussions before, and I don't want this to be just kind of a one-sided thing. So please, if you have,
it's not felt one-sided. So listen, again, I would prefer a concrete proposal about what you would like from people like me, people who are more focused on the Republicans or on the right than the left, and then I can decide whether or not this is something that's reasonable. For me, because again, I understand how it comes off to you. To me, it comes off like I should spend all or half my time dealing with an issue that I don't think is all or even half the problem. That's a problem for me. If I think the GOP is 70% of the problem politically in this country, the modern Republican Party, then I should dedicate at least 70% of the time to confronting it. I just do not agree, respectfully, with the idea of focusing so much more on the disagreements or the conflicts on my side than the opposing side, if I believe the opposing side is the bigger problem.
Sure.
So that's where I would like to go into more.
I'll give you my response to that, and sure. I'll let after I do, I'm going to give the mic to Wu because I'm sure she has thoughts as well. But here's my
sure. This is and I'm listening. Yeah, I'm still fucking with
I understand.
Camera.
This is my thought process here. Okay.
Oh, I'm here.
That I understand that the Republicans are much more of a problem.
You good, bro? I should speak for 5 seconds.
Republicans don't listen to me. Democrats do, and I want to not only address the problems right in a proportional thing, but also address them in a way that I can be proportionally successful at. And I feel like an episode of mine that has a come to Jesus moment with the people on the left who also may be seeing some of these extremists go off and letting them know that, hey, you don't have to worry. Not all of us are like those extremists out there. That's not the Democratic Party. That's not what progressive is. They're not us. And giving a better example for people who are shaky, who are floundering, who are like, oh, I don't know if I can be associated with this anymore. I think I have much more likelihood to have an impact than if I spent all day yelling at Trump voters. I mean, they're just not going to listen to me.
I think that because we talked about this before, and this is the last thing I'll say. I'll let you have the last word, and then Brianna can say what she has to say. But we've had this conversation before, and I thought, unless I'm mistaken, you eventually conceded that your audience was more right wing than you thought initially.
It is.
So I don't think it's fair to say.
But they're not MAGA voters.
I understand, but my point is, I think it's a good opportunity. If I had an audience that was, again, let's just use the centrist moniker. This is my beef with somebody like Constantine or, others as well who say that they're centrist. Well, if that's true, then you should actually spend time criticizing the right.
Connor, this just isn't true. Online, if you're not a socialist, you're a Nazi. You only feel this way because the majority of your online political interactions were in a very small, insular community that spouted up during COVID, where a bunch of lefties swarmed to Twitch and all the righties got banned. That's why you think that. That's not actually the case online, though. The online is way broader than you think it is. There are some people online who, think that if you're not a socialist, you're a Nazi, but that is not broad. It never really was, but it was way more broad late COVID than it is now.
And left. If you are a centrist who criticizes the left, you are a right-winger. You're just a dishonest one, right? That's why I try to be very open about my partisan and ideological leanings. It's not that I think the left is perfect, and believe it or not, even in my videos, I've criticized President Biden and the Biden administration because I disagree with certain strategic decisions that they've made. I disagree with certain policy decisions that they've made. But at the end of the day, Biden at his worst day is just objectively better for me than Trump at his best, and I'll never make that false equivalence. So to your point, Whick, I understand where you think you carry more of an audience and you carry more attention from the left, ergo it's worth your time to try to critique the left to get it to better itself. But I think based on your audience breakdown, you have that influence on the right and say, hey, Republicans.
Well, this helps with the center-right, too. And I'll respond, then we're going to get the right to Woo. But this helps with the center-right, too, because there's a lot of people, like Counterpoints is a great example. He's on the right. He's a right-winger, but he's not going to vote for Trump. And I think that reaching out to those people and letting people who are iffy on Trump, who are on the right, see that there's quote unquote sane Democrats, sane progressives, I think that does wonders. And this isn't just a disagreement on like I don't have a study right in front of me.
Yeah, but I get along with Connor. So where's the disagreement there? I get along with Connor. I say fuck you to him, but that's because
Connor's
he's a 40K
Counterpoints is a very agreeable
Josiah was
a very agreeable individual if you come at him the right way. But I will say, right, that like there are people in my audience who dislike you, Josiah, but who like me.
No shit.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, right?
I am aware.
Do you understand? Like, there's this. We all have different people that we will do better with, and I think that like you do great in your sphere. But I just wish you would help me more in mine. But that's all. But Woo, let's give it to her.
This is what I want to say. So Whick can back me up. I just dropped this Pew poll in DMs with him. It wouldn't let me put it in the chat where you could see it, Josiah. So in September of 2017, there's a question like, do you think that your gender can be different from the sex you were assigned at birth, or is determined by your sex you were assigned at birth? In September of 2017, that was 45% of people saying it could be different to 53%. It has gone down and down and down and down as we've let the fringe run the trans movement, which has happened very heavily in the last 7 years. And today, 2 out of 3 people believe that you can't, trans people are not real, they don't.
Okay. That's a bit of a no, I don't accept this. This is retarded polling data. And it's asking a very specific question. It's going to get a certain response from people. Because even if people don't, it may be that it turns out everyone ends up agreeing and everyone's like, actually, fuck gender, it's a retarded concept. We should just base everything on sex. But that doesn't actually preclude someone from believing that there can be a mental illness that causes intense distress because someone has sex characteristics that don't line up with an internal view of themselves, and that they should be given medication and surgery to alleviate that. You could still believe that line of logic and still be in favor of trans healthcare. You would just not believe that gender is like this, you wouldn't buy into sort of like the spiritual idea of gender, where you've actually got there's like a soul in you that's either man or woman. Like, just because you don't buy into that doesn't mean that you don't buy into the data and the science like that. Okay.
Don't change their gender.
So her point is just so fucking dumb here. And again, this is the actual. On one hand, she's saying, "Oh, these trans orgs are trying to infiltrate institutions to change the definition of woman to birthing person and all this shit. But on the other hand, she is wholesale bought into the idea that you have to say trans women are women, that gender is a thing. That gender is a real thing. But that's the building block to the rest of that same ideology.
And only 1 in 3 people think that, right? This is a disaster for the trans movement, and it directly ties into the public policy that trans people can expect, like access to health care, access to having insurance pay for surgeries like SRS or FFS. So respectfully, your question was, do I have to do this? My answer is no. You don't have to call out the fringe left. This is, I kind of think about activism like an RPG party. You would probably be.
I'm gonna fucking do something terrible. Oh, man, I can't believe my life is like a video game.
More of a white mage out there healing the Democrats and trying to keep us healthy and unified and moving along. But some of us, no one has been calling out this crazy fringe dude. And because of that, now 2 out of 3 voters don't
AoE healing,
think
guys.
trans people
AoE
are
healing.
real. That is disastrous for trans people. It has a real world impact in public policy. So if you don't want to do that job and you don't do that job, because I checked your YouTube before I came on, that's fine. It's your prerogative. You can choose what to do with your own career. But this is incredibly important to me. This is the #1 issue that I care about. And someone has got to fucking do this.
Well, it's the second, right?
Dude, this is so lame. Oh, I just really care about this. I'm the only one doing this. Someone has to do this. I am so important. I'm a martyr. Fucking get over yourself.
Democracy is first, and then as far as major policy issues.
Fair enough. Yes.
So okay, I am not a gamer.
It's very
I'm going to try to use this metaphor, and you tell me if I'm fucking it up.
Oh no. Okay,
Shut
here
up,
we go.
Whick. I'm going to try this. Okay, listen. All right. You're right. I would be the cleric healing the party or whatever.
This is painful. Go on.
Shut up. Listen, I'm going to get to it. But you would, okay, but Brianna, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you also don't want to be the member of the party shooting other members of your party, right? Even if, like let's say you're playing with a noob like me. You'd be like, Josiah, you got to do this differently. You got to do this.
It is. Let's say you're working with an absolute retard like me. Let's say you're working with just like peasant, retard, filth like me, who could never compare to you, obviously. I could obviously never compare to you. Please don't spurg out when I offer you a slight amount of criticism. Please, have I belittled myself? Have I demeaned myself at your feet enough for you to listen to what I'm about to say yet, Woo?
Differently, but you ultimately agree that at the end you zap the lasers at the enemy, the opponent, which in this case would be the right?
I would say it's like the Dark Knight mechanic in Final Fantasy XIV, where you sacrifice some of your health. You sacrifice.
My god. Fuck. Yeah. Oh god.
In Final Fantasy XIV, where you sacrifice some of your health. You sacrifice some of your health to make the entire party stronger. That's what I want to do. I want to sacrifice that 1 or 2% on the fringe and marginalize them so we can get many, many more times those votes from the 42% of independents. That's
Is it possible, again, using this metaphor, that you inadvertently make the opponent stronger? I
think it's possible. Of course it is. It is. But I mean, again, look at this poll. Like, this is where the public policy is going.
Look at this one poll. Look at this one opinion poll on a weird esoteric question about people's thoughts on a philosophical concept. Can't you see? This is why I need to care about Twitter. This is why I care about Twitter so much.
This is why these bills are finding such salience in state legislatures.
Open your eyes.
This needs an answer.
Listen, again, I do not and I have not quibbled. This is a constant tension that Stephen and I have. is because Steven is more open than I am to swing left. But I think, and I understand you highlighted the differences, which is that he is a man operating in this space. He's afforded more generosity than a woman. I take all that at face value. But I also know that you respect Steven and that you mended fences.
Well, the thing is that you can say that, but there is a differentiating factor in that when Destiny talks to either left wingers or right wingers, he's going to be, if he seriously disagrees with them, he's going to be contentious and he's going to, fucking try and rape them. But Brianna Wo, when she talks to left wingers, is screeching and struggling to contain her lungs. But when speaking to right wingers, it's like, oh yeah, is that great? Yeah, they're just so crazy, aren't they? Oh, it's so great to meet you. Oh, I just hate those lefties so much. So you can actually draw a clear difference there in the way they interact with those issues.
Steven, I think that to the extent that you are able, the extent that you are permitted, I think that adopting more of a page from his book, which is that he did it with Triggernometry. He did it with, he does it with people that he talks to, the twins that he recently had the conversation with, whose name is the Hodge twins.
Yeah.
He agreed when there was points of disagreement, but he never permitted this a false equivalence or this notion or this criticism of the left to go unaddressed. I feel that he was able to dig his ground in. That to me is just the difference. It's just, and I also understand that maybe if I were in that position, Brianna, it would also be really fucking hard for me to, in the moment, disagree with the opposition, because I feel it would potentially burn a bridge. I'm sympathetic to all that. I just still say at the end of the day, to the extent that attacks matter in your RPG, the lasers, the fireball, they should be directed predominantly at the opponent. And in my case, and I believe in your case too, that is still the right. You should be shooting fireballs.
Brianna, when you play video games, it's important to not team kill. Thanks, Josiah.
So I want to be generous to you now and say, look, this is something I've thought a lot about lately. I have gotten an ungodly amount of abuse from the fringe left following October 7th. I've reported more death threats.
Oh my God. No, the playbook, guys, that's got to be a bingo, right? Surely, that's got to be a bingo. Oh no. You just don't get it. You just don't get it. People are trying to kill me. People on Twitter are trying to kill me. Did you not see that tweet that went around the other week where someone said, "You're not Asian, I'm not even sure you're a woman"? Did you not see that? People are literally trying to kill me.
Gotten an ungodly amount of abuse from the fringe left following October 7th. I've reported more death threats to law enforcement than I can even count at this time, as many as I did during Gamergate. The attacks on my integrity happen daily, and it's really, really hard for me not to be resentful about that. I think something I've been really struggling with lately is, am I letting that anger do to me what it did to J.K. Rowling and Dave Chappelle, where they got so angry at those people that were attacking them so much, they developed some really shitty politics. I don't think I have, but I've been thinking about that a lot. So I think your point is really taken. What I think the difference is, you mentioned Piers Morgan. I'm going to be going on Piers Morgan soon. About a very contentious issue.
Oh, by the way, Brianna Wo on Piers Morgan. Wait, who's going to be on the show with her? Dude, I have to see this.
Easy super chatted $4.99. Why is she always playing victim like goddamn? Smiley face.
Thank you for the $4.99. Easy E, back from the dead after dying of AIDS. The bad AIDS that you get from gay sex. Just to be clear. Dude, Brianna Wo on Piers Morgan, dude, she will actually get, I feel like she'll get stomped. I feel like she's got to get stomped, right?
I intend to go on there guns blazing because Piers Morgan.
Dude, that's such a bad idea. Dude, that's such a bad idea for you. Oh my god, this is going to be so good. Wait, this is going to go terribly.
But I've been thinking about that a lot. So I think your point is really taken. What I think the difference is, you mentioned Piers Morgan. I'm going to be going on Piers Morgan soon about a very contentious issue. And I intend to go on there guns blazing because Piers Morgan loves an argument. That's the one suggestion Jake gave me when I was talking to him about it. He loves to argue. That's his favorite thing. So I'm going to give him one. I'm fine with that. My interpretation with Constantine and talking to him and Francis before the show was...
Dude, she can't take an argument, though. She can't take an argument. She will freak out. Dude, this content is going to be so good.
That middle ground, I just thought it was the better tactic in the moment. So anyone that has seen me on Whick knows I have no problem going aggro if it's called for.
Yeah, we've seen, but it's never called for, and you're never proportional. She embarrasses herself every time she gets into a contentious conversation. Where is it? Where's the freak out? It's right at the starting, right?
That's my position on it.
That's all.
So it didn't feel terrible. Yeah, I've never really interacted with. Look, I've listened to this whole panel, and look, Akana Boy, I've never really interacted with you before, but I have to say this has been really, really hard to sit here and listen to you talk for an hour and a half because you've got genuinely, like, you're not trans, you don't have dysphoria, so you're like mansplaining and you're transplaining to Jenny.
Are you serious?
And it
is this like a genuine statement you're making?
I need you to shut the fuck up.
I cannot believe that you're coming.
Whoa. What the hell?
Okay, I didn't expect this.
Blows my mind.
I'm gonna finish saying what I'm gonna.
Yeah, go for it.
I didn't anticipate that one. What is wrong with her? Is she like on something? What?
I wouldn't want to mansplain.
So it is so fucking smarmy. Jenny is talking about some serious stuff here.
Oh, Jesus Christ. She's coming in to defend Jenny Matrix. She's actually going out of her way to still do run interference for these people. It's absolutely insane.
This is not just you derailing it into stupid bullshit about words you're using. We're ultimately talking about public policy here. Jenny is
talking about policy, guys.
How she
directionally.
She has less of a voice in public
Abby
policy.
Blackbird super chatted $4.99.
She's less of a voice in public policy
death threats
because
also,
people
by the
without
way, him going on Piers Morgan.
Thank you for the 499, Abby. Thank you.
dysphoria exist, and sometimes, or people without diagnosable dysphoria even. Like, that's like a hard and defined thing. Exist and also want gender-affirming treatment. Like that.
Okay, we got it Sunday.
Is
in her own movement.
Anyway, yeah, that's the. I just want to show the freak out.
I think your criticism is fair. I just want credit that I did build a bridge there. And I can show you hundreds of emails showing it. I did put a different face on the Democratic Party.
Two things
than a lot of this audience had seen.
Yeah, I want to get Josiah the mic to respond, but then you said something in the middle there that I really want to ask you about.
Don't forget it, Whick. Do not forget it. So to your point about the bridge, Brianna, again, if you're getting these emails from Triggernometry fans saying that they have moved more leftward because of your appearance there, I can't contest that, and I'm not going to. I do think, as I said to you privately, a week ago or however long ago it was, and even now during this conversation, I do think, you did attempt to build a bridge. I just don't think they met you in the middle of that bridge. They stayed on the other end. That's it. And so to use a crude analogy, at a certain point, it's almost like, get your ass over here. I met you halfway. I am doing, to the extent that I believe that these are sincere, legitimate disagreements with my side of the aisle, I have shown you, Constantine and Francis, good faith. Now, unless you think the right is perfect, show me a little good faith, and let's talk about the election denialism of MAGA. Let's talk about how the Republicans have an objectively worse record on Ukraine. You mentioned, yes, a great question to Constantine and Francis when you said, do you think that the Republicans have been compromised by Russia? And he immediately dismissed it. But you know who hasn't dismissed it?
That's the thing, right, is that she's gone over to the other end of the bridge, and then everyone on the other side is saying, we fucking hate you. Go away. Go back to the other side of the bridge. Like, this hasn't gone well for her in any way. Like, how can she defend it?
Republican Congress people like Michael McCall have said his own party has been infiltrated. And it's almost like Constantine, and I understand you would phrase this much more gently, but a guy who knows the Republican Party far better than you do, Constantine, an actual Republican, has said his party has been infiltrated by Russia. So are you prepared to grapple with that? The idea that there are some areas that the Republican Party is just deficient compared to Democrats? What will you give me in return? That's it. I think you built a bridge. I think you did the work. They didn't do any of it. You met them halfway on that bridge, and they stayed on the other side. And I do think that's a problem. And I think
can I just say something here really quickly?
Yeah.
And this is an honest question. How much major media have you done in your career?
None.
Okay, so this is something.
Man, here we go, dude. She was saying he was being condescending earlier for giving slight feedback. Oh man.
Because I've done a lot of major media. The most important hit is the first one, because you really want to focus on the producer particularly, and really making sure you make it super easy for the producer to book you. And you want to, and then after that first hit, that's when you can get a little bit more aggro. But it's opening up that door that first time. So I think, like, in all seriousness, I'm sure I'll go back on again.
That's good.
I think it will be a different kind of tenor because, their audience likes me. It did good.
But this is career advice. This isn't actually political strategy, because you just seeded a bunch of points and they all fucking hated you for it.
Numbers, it got a lot of buzz. I think there's value in kind of holding that once you have a good relationship established, because you don't want to be the asshole going on a show guns blazing and blowing it all up.
Yeah, you don't want to begin the conversation when they're like, hi, Brianna, how are you? And you're like, fuck you, you piece of shit, right? Yeah. And listen, and again, if you think you're going to go back on, if you're going to try to go back on, I hope that you act in such a way as to make it clear to them that they need to reciprocate. Good faith, this is the thing Whick and I have talked about before, good faith cannot be one-sided. By definition, if you and I are having a conversation and you act in good faith, Brianna, and I don't, by definition we had a bad faith conversation, because it must be reciprocated. And same thing with charity, and I just don't think they did that for you, but hopefully in the future they will, and you'll have a chance to push them more and defend the left in the areas that you think the left must be defended, and attack the right where you think the right should be attacked.
Did you see me on Tim Pool? I think no one would say I wasn't very aggressive for that.
No, so if you recall, so it's funny. It's funny you say that, because actually, yes, if you remember, you and I had a private conversation briefly about your exchange on Tim Pool. I think that the Tim Pool, again, in my opinion, armchair quarterbacking was a much better showing for you, because you were charitable with Tim to the extent that I think Steven has tried to, Vosh has tried to, and you also push back more frequently. And has he ever talked about having you back on?
Yeah, I'll be back on soon.
Good for you. Okay, so yes, I that is an example of where I think that it was a...
Politics is when you go on podcasts. The more podcasts you go on, the more politics you're doing. Connor, actually, that's true and based. GigaChat. Okay, Dave.
From my recollection, and from my recollection of our conversation at the time, that was a much more balanced conversation where you dug your heels in much more often. I think it was to the betterment of the left, because you represented them. Yeah.
But his audience liked me a lot less. I think that's worth.
Oh, I bet. So, I fucking bet. Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
I got less emails saying you changed my mind. So
yeah. Well, and again, I can't compete with that. So at the end of the day, listen, if you've got evidence that you've moved people, like Steven talks about this before, how, him going on this channel, that channel, he's gotten emails and responses from people saying, hey, listen, I appreciate your reasonable approach. Then fair enough. I can just tell you what it looked like to me. So at the end of the day, it's a judgment call.
We did have a super chat earlier saying that exact thing, that that the respect there, and this is what I want to highlight, I think, in these kinds of conversations. And this is just a general overall statement, right? is that people have to respect you before they're going to believe you. They have to believe that what you are saying is going to be genuine and honest before they take you seriously. You can have all the facts at your disposal, but if they just think you're an asshole and don't like you, they're just not going to listen. And that's the unfortunate part. Like, would it be better if people just used logic and facts and reason? Probably, but they don't. That's not how people work. And asking people to just take your word for it and take your word for all these facts and things like that without at least making that pill swallowable, I think that's a failure, right? A lot of left-wing commentators, me included, right, fail at this too often, is that we want to shove it down the enemy's throat. And they're obviously going to fight against that. But if you can make the pill much more soft, a spoonful of sugar helps medicine go down, right? And I think that we could apply that to most of our conversations. Now, there are certain people where I don't care if they gag when I'm trying to shove it down their throat, right? Like pills down their throat. But stop. I regretted that phrasing.
Is he good? Is this guy good? What's good with bruh? Just rapist mindset.
Immediately. Okay, but you know what I mean? Like, there's some people like I just don't want on my team at all, and they can go get fucked. But for people I'm trying to actually work with, who I believe are honest actors and are genuine people, I will use all the sugar I need to get them to swallow that pill. Let me touch on, and we're not going to go too much longer, right? I know we got places to be, but I wanted to touch on something Brianna said, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because you mentioned it, and you mentioned it's something you think about it, but I wanted to talk about it more generally because I think it's very important. You mentioned that one of the worries that you have is that you are being negatively polarized, and what I mean by that is that you're being pushed into contrarian stances because of the just rabid hate that you get from certain sectors. And I think Dave Chappelle and J.K. Rowling were two people you mentioned for that. Yeah. So I wanted to interrogate that a little bit more, because I think we should all acknowledge that this is a thing that happens, and none of us are immune to this. None of us are immune to being negatively polarized. So can I ask you, Brianna, what are some ways that you have tried to protect yourself from this kind of thing? Because you get this probably more than me, more than Josiah, more than anyone that I've talked to, right? You get this so much. So what mechanisms, what habits have you employed to keep yourself from just going full, like, oh, you hate me? Okay, fuck you. I'm going to turn against everything you stand for, right?
Well, I mean, I put out a tweet, that got a lot of, it actually got me a lot of unfollows this weekend, saying like, hey, look, just so you know, I'm voting for Biden, y'all. I will never vote for Trump. The election denialism is...
Wait, is this true? I wonder what Wu did to annoy Rowling, apart from calling Rowling a Holocaust denier repeatedly. Did that actually happen? Did Wu call J.K. Rowling a Holocaust denier?
A hard line. So I try to make the case for Democrats really consistently. I think a lot of it is the self-awareness. And I think if you look at my Twitter right now, I think probably too high a percentage of it is critiquing the fringe left. I do have to say, my motivation in talking so much about anti-Semitism is 100% about getting Joe Biden elected. I think if Democrats are not out there making the case that this bullshit is not acceptable, I don't think Jews are going to stand with us. I just flat out don't believe it. So, that is about me trying to save the party. But I think it's just being aware that this can radicalize you and trying to, stand with your values, right? I think particularly as we get closer to the election, I think you're going to see more and more of my Twitter talking, making the case for Democrats, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I hope that's the case. I know I worry about myself in this. Yeah. Right? I worry that, especially with things like Israel-Palestine, that the overwhelming amount of crazy on the Palestinian side, I really try to not let it color the realization that Israel has a lot of fucking problems. They do some fucking horrible shit.
Yep.
And I'm just, again, just from a personal kind of perspective, what are some things that you feel like you have been unfair to people on? Let's do a come to Jesus moment here with both of us. In what ways do you think you've maybe been unfair to people who maybe snapped when you shouldn't have? Do you feel like there are any examples of that you'd like to talk about? I'm just curious.
Like offhand right now, I mean, I lose my temper sometimes. That's my character flaw as a person. I've done on your show before. No, I do want to say something I think is different about me than you, Whick, is I've famously gotten it from both sides. You know, I came to prominence from getting this stuff from the alt-right. Yeah, I've gotten it from the left. I think that really has created a, like I put a very high, importance on speaking my mind and standing up for what I believe is right. But, you know, at the same time, like, I think sometimes, like, I think that it's, I see the siren allure of turning against all these people, and I just try to be cognizant.
Connor, Brianna is not doing anything with it. Whatever influence you think she's got, she's not doing anything with. Name one achievement of Brianna Wo. Name one thing she has success. Well, Connor, we will wait, okay? I've been desperate for someone who can answer this. Name one success of Brianna Wo. Giving you cancer. See, Connor can only respond with jokes. This is the level we're at. This is Woo's lapdog. Cannot give us one success, one achievement of Brianna Wo. It ain't Revolution 60. She didn't change anything in the games industry. She didn't change anything in games journalism. She didn't change anything in the culture war. She lost that. She admits she lost that. She failed to get elected in the primary. She suspended her second run. She fundraised a dickload for Democrats. Okay, so she's done some fundraising. Okay, so you can't point to any specific achievement. She's just raised some money. And you don't even know how much money. How much money has she raised? How much money has she raised? And can you compare that to other... Do we even know that she's a successful fundraiser? She might be a dog shit fundraiser. Connor, do you know enough about Woo's fundraising to say that you think Woo is a good that compared to other fundraisers, other people who do that she's good at it? Would you make that judgment? Would you make that firm statement? I don't know. So you just so this should be Brianna's top defender, top cheerleader. The biggest success that we can name, the only success we can name, is raised some amorphous amount of money, and we don't even know if she's particularly good at it, and we also don't know if it's going to places that are particularly efficient. Great. This is supposed to be the serious political operator that we're all supposed to bow down in front of because she's so intelligent and efficient and just knows what she's doing. She's just getting shit done. She's making the right choices and networking, and she's making a difference. She's actually doing something, but no one can actually identify what she's doing or how well. It's baffling. It's seriously baffling.
Of that, and remind myself that at the end of the day, Democrats need to win.
Gotcha, Josiah. Well, I'm curious for you. I'm wondering, like, because again, you have a much less of a Twitter presence than Brianna Wo, but I am curious.
Or you, for that matter. Yeah.
To what extent do you find yourself getting maybe negatively polarized against people who would otherwise be on your team, if at all? Right. This might not apply to you, right?
Believe it or not, I have gotten critiques from people on the left before. I imagine they happen less frequently than either of you two. But so Cody Johnston of Some More News had this really funny tweet a long time ago where he said something like, the left got a little too PC, so I changed my position on healthcare, the military, foreign policy, domestic policy, blah, blah. You know, he's making fun of people like who do the I left the left thing. And so one of the things I've tried to take from heart from the very beginning is, number one, I do sincerely believe in a progressive agenda and that the Republicans are the immediate obstacle. And like when I made this, when I made quote tweeted the tweet that you made, Whick, for today's event, I had at least one person I saw in my mentions go off on me the fact that I'm having a conversation with Brianna, and I just ignored it. Now, it's easy for me to do because it's not like my mentions are being flooded with it. But when it's happened in the past, I either ignore it or I respond with an okay, like a lowercase okay. And the way I look at it is, I'm going to be an ally to the left, even if the left doesn't fucking want it. Like if I ever get to the point where I drive, you know, like I said, I have a pretty good rapport with the guys at the Vanguard, and I do like them. But it's entirely possible that between now and the election, they'll be so pissed off about my pro-electoral, go reelect Biden no matter what, you know, situation, because I think, you know, a Democrat would be better in that position than a Republican. I will be an ally of the Vanguard, whether the Vanguard wants it or not. I will be an ally of the left, whether the left wants it or not. I will not allow them. They cannot kick me out of this. I will bear hug them in love and say, listen, I will never turn to the right.
Got you. Okay. Great.
I will never turn to the right no matter how much you hate me. Because I do sincerely hold these principles, and also because I think it's a fun way to annoy these people. So it's kind of like that. But it's also easy for me to say now because it's entirely possible that if I had, you know, 500,000 Twitter followers and I was just getting inundated in this shit from my side, my views may change. But as of right now, that's how I've gone.
Do you get death threats regularly? Do people?
Oh my god, dude, it's crazy. She's actually broken a record, dude. I can't take it. Holy fuck. Do you get death threats? Do you know what it's like to have people literally trying to kill you on Twitter? Jace Connor's just going to exact swift elite justice on my soul with a single knife wound, and you're laughing? And you're laughing?
Tell you they're going to rape you? Do you get child pornography sent to you? I get that.
What? No, she's getting chopped. What?
My views may change, but as of right now, that's how I've gone.
Do you get death threats regularly? Do people tell you they're going to rape you? Do you get child pornography sent to you? I get
that's like a new. I've literally never heard people. Maybe like what in niche, super niche, like image board, like not 4chan, but like, you know, like 888chan, some shit, like a niche image board. Maybe someone trolling there sends someone CP to fuck. Like maybe I've heard of that like one time in the past. I've never. Show me the police reports, Brianna. Show me the police reports. That's a crazy claim. That's a crazy claim. People sending. Okay.
All the time, man.
I think I've had 2 death threats sent to me through YouTube, right? Such that they were like, when I came back to it, they were auto-moderated.
Oh, hey, look,
out.
I just had a guy accusing me of raping women in my channel right now as we're talking, right? So yeah, I get you.
Why would you say that? Why are you bringing attention to that? Actually, there's a guy in my chat right now saying that I'm a gross rapist. I'm a gross rapist. You can only get pussy by taking it. Actually, there's a guy in my chat right now saying I'm a gross rapist goblin, like the characters from the first episode of Goblin Slayer. That's happening to me right now, dude.
Sure, go ahead.
But Brianna, that's what I'm saying. It's entirely possible that I would feel much more bitter about it, or have the temptation to really be be by it if I were inundated the way that you are. But
it's not that I disavow. It's that I think, for whatever reason, you know, there are a lot of people that really, really love me, and there are some people that just hate me. It's very similar to Destiny, right? So at this point, I'm just damaged from all of it, to be really honest with you. Sure. And I could just tune it out. So, you know, I guess I'm just saying it's easy to say that. That's how you would respond. I think if it actually happened to you, I think you might feel a little differently. So.
Which is precisely what I said. That is precisely what I said, that if my circumstances were different, I might feel differently. But the way I've been trying to go about it from the beginning is basically frame it in my mind that no matter what, I will try to cling to these principles. Yeah, no matter what. But yeah.
Can I ask you just real quick? Because I know we got to go and I want to wrap up a little bit. But I want to ask both of you first this final question, and then if either of you have questions for me or questions for each other, we can ask those, and then we'll wrap it up. But final question to you both. What would you consider your core foundational principles, right? Morally, politically, etc. When someone asks you, like, what principles are the most important to you, how would you answer? And I want Josiah first, then we'll pass it to Wu. And then, yeah.
I would say trying to democratize as much as possible. Try to strive for a society which gets as close to equality as possible, or at least presents that opportunity optimally. Doing so requires enshrining minority rights in there as well, and also just civil rights in general, you know, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Basically trying to create a society that everybody is on as much of an even footing as possible, and then from there, they go from there, but one that, you know, looks out for the least among us. Yeah, those are principles that I hold pretty dear.
I think politics change and what is important changes. Like in the Bush era, you know, stopping the Iraq War was something I considered a top priority. Today, it is, you know, safeguarding trans rights. So, you know, it's not so much a policy as much as I think it's integrity. It really amazes me how little people talk about integrity. And Whick, you served in the military, so I know you.
All of a sudden, it's not about policy; it's about integrity. Rihanna, you just came up with the label of cybersecurity expert out of nowhere because you cared more about policy than integrity. But now it's about integrity and not policy. Like, there's so many examples you could spin up to illustrate this point. You were happy to look at Vosh in the context of his work for the sake of policy. But now it's about integrity. Like, so many points where the reasoning has been, the line has been, this is all about policy. Look, we have to get real outcomes. We have to get real outcomes and think about what really, it's an election year. But now that she's being pressed on something where it's like, hey, this isn't good for policy. This is good for your career, but it's not really good for any policy outcomes. Now, all of a sudden, oh, no, it's not about the policy. It's actually about integrity and being consistent. This is just sickening.
You get this. I came from a military family, and we talked about that all the damn time growing up. So being truthful to your word, being honest in how you represent things, standing up for what you believe, you know, trying to think about your actions and make sure that you're being reasonable and fair, you know, that is my highest principle. And, you know, what I want by the end of my career, you know, I hope to have done enough to have an obit in the New York Times. And I'm sure it's going to be all over the map, but we'll talk about games.
There's Brianna Wo bingo, I guess. Policy. Appeal to destiny. From the South. Directional. Gamergate. Twitter. Good friend. Productive conversation. Death threats. I think we probably got all of these, to be honest, in this conversation.
Gamergate, we'll talk about the work I'm doing now. And I really hope that obit will say that I'm someone that had integrity in what I said, and I wasn't afraid to challenge people. That's what's really important to me.
Excellent. Well, do either of you have questions or something to bring up that we haven't discussed yet?
I have a question.
Wait, did she say that?
And what you believed, and when we talked about that, it really amazes me how little people talk about integrity. And Whick, you served in the military, so I know you get this. I came from a military family, and we talked about that all the damn time growing up. So being truthful to your word, being honest in how you represent things, standing up for what you believe, trying to think about your actions and make sure that you're being reasonable and fair. That is my high.
Yeah, Wick, you get this from working at some desk job in the military, don't you, Wick? Yeah, you know all about honor and integrity from working some desk job in the US military.
Principle. And, what I want by the end of my career, I hope to have done enough to have an obit in the New York Times. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be all over the map, but we'll talk.
Bro, seriously. Oh, man, she did say she wants an obituary in the New York Times. Bro.
About Gamergate, we'll talk about the work I'm doing
now. We'll talk about Gamergate. Dude.
By the end of my career, I hope to have done enough to have an obit in the New York Times. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be all over the map, but we'll talk about Gamergate. We'll talk about the work I'm doing now. And I really hope that obit will say that I'm someone that had integrity in what I said, and I wasn't afraid to challenge people. That's what's really important to me.
Excellent. Well, do either of you have questions or something to...
It's literally, it's pure... This is like the most blatant... I won't say narcissism because that's a diagnosis, but narcissistic behavior I've ever seen. The spurging out of the slight criticism, and now this insane rant about how she wants to have a New York Times obituary. It talks about Gamergate. You are a fucking lunatic.
To bring up...
literally, no wonder she was so unlikable PV couldn't work with her. Holy fuck.
Haven't discussed yet.
I have a question, Josiah. So what do you think... this is a really tough election. And I believe that if Trump wins, one of the whispers I'm hearing from the people that work in anti-trans politics is one of the first things they're going to do is basically sign bills to make the liability for providing gender-affirming care, to make that extremely expensive, which is going to result in people stopping access to gender-affirming care. So I think trans rights are really on the ballot this election. What responsibility do you feel for trans people, and how does that reflect in the career choices that you make?
Yeah, so I think as somebody who supports trans rights, I think it's important for anybody who is on the left or supports the Democratic Party to try to be, number one, as inclusive as possible and defend against the excesses and the overreaches of anti-trans Republican legislation. I covered the increasing, I don't want to say by orders of magnitude, but substantially increasing raft of anti-trans legislation coming out of states, again, beginning in 2021, going up to 2023, and then it just kind of like lost focus in my coverage as I focus more on like the horse race and electoral politics. But yeah, I think we have an obligation to protect marginalized groups, and I think you'd easily make the case that trans people are the most marginalized group in the country, So yeah, I think that we have a duty to win, and I think we have a duty to protect against anti-trans legislation from all comers.
I think that's fair.
But also, as far as what Trump would do specifically, what's interesting is I don't know the extent to which Trump himself, and I imagine you feel the same way as anti-trans. I just feel he's a malignant narcissist. He's probably thinking, what the hell is trans, right? Like he was just educated about this 3 days ago or 3 years ago. I think he is a proxy for ideologically motivated people who really want to harm that community. And that's another reason why I think it's important to not just defeat him for the presidency, but you also have to retake the House, and you also have to keep the Senate. And it's a brutal map, particularly for the Senate, because they need only to win.
It's just like, why even talk about trans issues if you're trying to protect trans rights? Honestly, the best thing to do is don't talk about it. Literally, give it no attention. That's unironically, that is the best way to go about it, because all you want is a left-leaning government in power to make just sort of like reasonable decisions about treating these illnesses and not like doing massive clampdowns on people's adults' freedoms, And like in the UK, Keir Starmer has for the entire last few years constantly avoided talking about trans shit. Has been asked about it, given non-committal answers, not mentioned anything about it, just not fucking spoken about it. Because why would you? Taking any stance on it just harms you in the eyes of some amount of voters. So why would you, when it's like not something that even really matters, and it is just something that, in terms of like what should be done by government, it's pretty reasonable. To any reasonable person, it's pretty clear. Be cautious, administer treatments, and study the effects in a measured and responsible way that's aligned with the data. It's not open hormones for everyone, open surgeries for everyone, and it's not ban it everywhere. So clearly, so just get into power, and it'll be fine. So why the fuck are you spending your entire time fighting a retarded culture war issue while professing to care about actual politics and policy?
Win 2 seats.
Yeah.
So we have to win a trifecta. And then, of course, then we have to deal with the final boss of American democracy at the moment, which is this right-wing Supreme Court. Because even if you protect things at the federal level, and let's say that you have a sufficiently motivated Democratic majority to enshrine trans protections into federal law, which of course supersedes state law, states will challenge it. It'll be granted cert in front of the court, and then there's no fucking telling how that court will decide. They may strike down a federal congressional law which enshrines anti-trans legislation. So to me, this is the real obstacle. This is something I complain about a lot with Whick, which is it's not enough to get Biden reelected, which itself is going to be challenging. Got to take back the House, keep the Senate, and do something about this court, rein this court in, because they're...
Also, guys, now is a great time to remind you to please like, subscribe, donate, buy a membership, gift a membership, buy a super chat if you can. Go to discord.gg/Kuihman, twitter.com/Kuihman, reddit.com/r/Kuihman. Thank you. I think it's all of it.
Even with just the trifecta in terms of the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Yeah,
we can have that fight another day. Right?
So I'm just saying to Brianna, I agree that it's going to be perilous and incredibly complicated and incredibly challenging, and I don't think it's enough to just win the presidency.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that's really fair. This is part of why I get so irritated at the anti-electoralism, particularly from the fringe Palestine people. I really feel like they would sacrifice American democracy just to, frankly, poke a stick in the eye of the Zionists that believe Israel should exist. I think a lot of them would do that. And so I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. That's the top priority. But I think at the same time, there's got to be some bold leadership that is willing to go out there and to refocus the discussion on public policy that makes sense, that is sellable to a wider electorate. I think that's a really thankless job. And, Whick, to your credit, I think you have those kinds of discussions on your show. I appreciate it when you have it. And I think we need more of that. If I could wave my magic wand and fire every single quote-unquote leader in the trans rights movement right now, I would do that. They've steered the entire thing into a cliff. So, in my estimation, this kind of work, going out to Tim Pool's audience and Triggernometry and talking to Lauren Southern and going on Piers Morgan and trying to present a less radical, more public policy focused version of the trans movement, I think that's one of the very top priorities we should be doing. So that's how I feel.
I want to read these last 3 super chats, and then I want to give each of you some closing thoughts, and then we'll just kind of wrap it up.
Sure.
And I know you guys got places to go. And I want to thank you both for having this conversation. I know
I don't know if this is a policy consideration, but I am sympathetic to this idea that half of this country hates the country, that patriotism is the exclusive province of the right. I think it's perfectly reasonable to love this country and love living in this country and also want it to be better. I would say that's a concern. I would say even this idea that the Democrats have become out of touch, which is actually a criticism that's been levied at them for decades, that they're the elitist party, that they're the party of America.
Are good at that.
For that, I think it's fine. Issues in sports, again.
Have off. I'm going to do.
Was the case
goes crazy and Free Palestine, they don't love the country. I actually think that there could be a coalition that's starting to grow in this country as MAGA goes crazy and Free Palestine goes crazy, where those of us that just want things like our cops to have funding, our schools to work, our justice system to be fair, our border to like be secure, like this stuff that really isn't left versus right, it's just common sense. I actually think that there is a growing electorate out there that really agrees with that. And I think that large number of independents that vote that way is strong evidence for that. So yeah, at the end of the day, if I have to choose between a Republican or a Democrat representing me, I'm going to vote Democrat. But what has changed in my thinking is I don't think every Republican is my enemy, and I think there's a ton of value in talking to them with respect and finding out what we agree on, because like that's how democracy works. And I think I'm good at that, and I think it's a job I'm going to continue doing.
Well, thank you for being here, gang.
Yeah, that's not what anyone was saying in that entire discussion, but sure, whatever. Literally, no one was saying that every single Republican is your enemy. That was not the criticism that was being given to her. Fucking idiot.